This is a global initiative from the Ecommerce Institute in partnership with USAID and eTrade Alliance. From those who have already interacted with the day, you know that this is a leading event in digital commerce, driving growth and elevating online businesses worldwide. My name is Terry Ann Chebet. I'll be your MC today and a moderator of one or two of the panels, and I'm really looking forward to a wonderful conversation. So before I welcome our first speaker this morning, once again, who was here last year? All right, so you have some work. Please turn to the person next to you and tell them your key takeaway from last year. And then if you did not, please speak to the person next to you and ask them what do you expect from e-commerce day this year? For 1 minute. All right. Thank you all so much. So I'd like to invite our first speaker for the day who will set the stage and let us know, what do we expect today? What are some of the conversations that will happen? What are the key outcomes of the day as well? Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Marcos Peridon, who will be giving us some insights and inspiration, setting the stage for the day. Let's put our hands together for Marcos.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jambo, Nairobi. How are you? Fine? And welcome to the second edition of the e-commerce day in Africa. And good morning for all the people who is online. I thinking last night, how will be my opening words now? So I will do online live demo with the help of my intelligence artificial copilot. The name of her is Lyra, and she will help me to speak in Swahili. So I will try to do this online test with you. Who are in this room speaking in Swahili? Up your hand. All the people. So you have to share with me, how do you think is my Swahili after the demo? Okay? It's okay? Well, Lyra, we can start with our demo, and you have to I will talk in Spanish, in Portuguese, and in English, and you have to talk in Swahili. Please explain what we will do in the demo. In Swahili, please. First in English, and after that in Swahili.
Absolutely. In the demo, we'll showcase a multilingual interaction. I will be speaking in Swahili, while you, Marcos, will alternate between Spanish, Portuguese, and English. The goal is to demonstrate seamless communication across languages with the help of AI, allowing our audience to interact in their preferred language, showcasing the power of technology in breaking language barriers. Katika demo, tutamonyesha mawasiliano kwa lugha mbalimbali. Nitazungumzar kwa Kiswahili, utinamonyesha kati ya Kihispania, Kireno na Kiingereza. Lengo ni kuonyesha mawasiliano yasiyo na mipaka ya lugha kwa msaada wa AI, ikiruhusu hadhira yetu kushirikiana kwa lugha wanayoipenda na kuonyesha nguvu ya teknolojia katika kuvunja vizuizi vya lugha.
Now I will talk in Spanish, and you have to talk in English and in Swahili. ¿Puedes explicarnos, Lyra, qué es lo que hice y cómo desarrollé ese video con mi avatar hablando en Swahili, por favor?
Claro, Marcos. ¿Tú creaste este video?
Sorry, Lyra. Lyra, you have to talk in English first and after in Swahili.
My apologies, Marcos. You developed this video using advanced artificial intelligence technologies, combining tools like ChatGPT and Azure AI. By creating a digital avatar of yourself, you were able to make it speak fluently in Swahili. This process involved training the AI with your voice and mannerisms, ensuring the avatar reflects your personality and communication style accurately. Ulianzisha video hii kwa kutumia teknolojia ya hali ya juu ya akili bandia, ukiunganisha zana kama ChatGPT y Azure AI. Kwa kuunda avatari ya kidijitali ya wewe mwenyewe, uliweza kuifasaha kwa Kiswahili. Mchakato huu ulijumuisha kufunza akili bandia kwa sauti yako na mienendo yako, kwa kurahisisha kuwa avataria inawakilisha utu wako na mtindo wako wa mawasiliano kwa usahihi.
Thank you very much, Lyra. Production, we can put the video now.
Habari za asubuhi nyote, na karibuni kwenye historia la pili la Ecommerce de East Africa, Kenya. Ni heshima kubwa hapa nanyi leo katika hii la Nairobi, hii lenye nguvu linalo ya umbusi ustahimilivu na mabadiliko. Leo tunafungua kwa safari yetu mpya ya Ecommerce Day World Tour, tukio linalovuka mipaka likiwa na lengo wazi kuunganisha, kuhamasisha na kubadilisha biashara ya kidijitali. Hili ni tukio la 100 duniani kote na la pili mfululizo tunalofanya barani Afrika bara lenye vipaumbele fursa nyingi na mustakabali mzuri wa kidijitali. Tumekusanyika hapa kusherehekea uwezo mkubwa wa mfumo wa kidijitali Afrika Mashariki na Zaidi. Tukio hili ni sehemu ya dhamira ya kimataifa iliyoanza zaidi ya miaka 10 iliyopita Amerika Kusini, wakati Ecommerce Day ilipoanzishwa kama jukwaa la kitaaluma na ukuaji wa biashara ya mtandaoni. Leo, ikiwa na uwepo katika nchi yetu, Ecommerce Day imekuwa kielelezo cha kimataifa kinachomabadiliko ya kidijitali na kuunganisha wadau muhimu katika masoko mbalimbali. Dhamira yetu Afrika ni rahisi lakini yenye matarajio makubwa: kukuza maendeleo ya ndani na kikanda kupitia ushirikiano, maarifa ya pamoja na uvumbuzi. Tunaamini kwa dhati kuwa biashara ya kidijitali sio tu injini ya ukuaji wa kiuchumi, bali pia ni chombo chenye nguvu cha kuboresha maisha, kuunganisha jamii na kuwawezesha wafanyabiashara wa kila aina. Tunataka kuimarisha mlolongo mzima wa thamani ya biashara ya mtandaoni, kuanzia watekelezaji wa teknolojia na suluhisho za malipo hadi mashirika ya masoko, usafirishaji na masoko ya mtandaoni. Kila mmoja wenu anacheza jukumu muhimu katika mfumo huu. Kwa kushirikiana, tunashiriki lengo moja: kutoa uzoefu wa ununuzi ulio rahisi, salama na wa kuridhisha kwa watumiaji ambao hujenga imani na kukuza uaminifu. Ziara isiyo tu mfululizo wa matukio, ni jukwaa la kimkakati la kushirikiana maarifa, kuunganisha viongozi na kuharakisha maendeleo ya mfumo endelevu wa kidijitali Afrika. Nairobi, kama mwenyeji, inaonyesha kasi ya mabadiliko ya kidijitali, ikionyesha jinsi teknolojia inaweza kuwa chombo chenye nguvu cha ujumuishaji na maendeleo. Tukio hili limewezekana kutokana na juhudi za pamoja za mashirika na watu wengi waliojitolea kwa ukuaji wa biashara ya kidijitali Afrika Mashariki. Ningependa kusisitiza jukumu la Ecommerce Institute linaloongoza mpango huu wa kimataifa pamoja na washirika wetu wa USAID, ETRA Alliance na American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya, Kenya. Shukrani za dhati kwa timu ya Ecommerce Institute, hasa Natalia Suka na Igor Ancos ambao wameongoza juhudi hii kwa ubora. Pia nataka kutoa shukrani zangu kwa Michelle por na timu yake Nextray, George Mete na timu yake ya Palladium, pamoja na Eva Wathome na timu yake American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya. Misho, shukrani zangu za dhati kwa wasemaji wote, kampuni, wadhamini hasa BTX, Cheter Network, Pitch Payments na Registry Afrika na mashirika yaliyoshiriki kufanya tukio hili kuwa halisi. Bila kujitolea kwenu na maono yenu, tusingekuwa hapa leo. Tumetayarisha mpango wa kinana wa kuvutia unaojumuisha mijadala, utuwasamada, mashindano ya startups na ziara za kiufundi. Agenda hii imeundwa ili kutoa maarifa ya kimkakati kutoka kwa wahusika wakuu, mifano ya vitendo na nafasi za kipekee za kuunganishwa kwa lengo la kuleta athari halisi na ya kudumu kwenye biashara na jamii zenu. Tunaishi katika wakati wa kipekee katika historia ya biashara ya kidijitali. Kasi ya kiteknolojia inayochochewa na mabadiliko ya tabia ya watumiaji inatupa fursa ambazo hazijawahi kutokea za kubuni, kuboresha na kubadilisha shughuli zetu. Lakini fursa hizi pia zinahitaji kuwa jasiri, kustahimili na kuwa na mikakati thabiti. swali tunalopaswa kujiuliza ni je, tuko tayari kuongoza mabadiliko haya? Ningependa kufunga kwa msukumo kutoka kwa Ayrton Senna kwa biashara ya kidijitali. Senna alisema, siwezi kuacha kitabu kushinda, siwezi kuacha kusukuma mwenyewe. Ndivyo nilivyo mshirika yangu. Roho hiyo ya kuuliza, uongozi na ustahimilivu inapaswa kutongoza katika mapinduzi haya ya kidijitali. Tuko hapa kujifunza kusukuma kwenye urefu mpya na kushinda pamoja kama mfumo mmoja. Asanteni nyote kwa sehemu ya mpango huu. Uwepo wenu hapa ni ushahidi wa kujitolea tunaloshirikiana kwa mustakabali wa kidijitali. Pamoja tunajenga misingi ya mfumo ambao utakuwa mfano wa dunia, sio tu ushindani barani Afrika, bali pia kimataifa. Karibu kwenye Ecommerce Afrika Kenya tunataka wote. Nina hakika kuwa toleo hili litakuwa tukio lisilosahaulika la kubadilisha maisha yetu sote. Ikiwa kuna sehemu unahitaji kuboresha au kubadilisha, ni yangu.
Well, the people like this, the potential of this, right now. You can share with us your conclusion and your review of my work, and what is the final conclusion that you give to all the people. Remember, first in English and third in the
Specific or presenting a conclusion from a discussion. My response accordingly.
The two things, please.
Oke, saya menjelaskan secara ringkas dan menyimpulkan dari dua sisi. Pertama, dari kata-kata Anda, inti yang dapat saya ambil adalah bahwa Anda ingin memastikan pesan Anda tersampaikan dengan baik, baik dalam bentuk ringkasan maupun kesimpulan yang bisa dipahami semua orang. Anda menginginkan hasil akhir yang jelas dan berdampak. Kesimpulannya adalah, untuk memastikan audiens memahami pesan Anda, penting untuk merangkum ide utama dengan sederhana dan menarik, lalu memberikan penutup yang kuat. Misalnya, pesan utama yang ingin disampaikan adalah pentingnya kolaborasi lintas budaya dan teknologi untuk menciptakan perubahan nyata. Mari kita bersama visi ini.
Well, what do you think? Is okay? It's okay. Yeah, you put your hand up. Okay. Well, I try to explain with this. If I can do with 1 hour of work, only 1 hour of work, 2 apps, more or less in the morning of today, this video. Imagine that you can do, you can do with the digital channels in the rest of this day and the days before. It's the most important thing is put in action all the things that you will learn in this day. Thank you very much and have a very, very good day today with us.
Wow, thank you, Marcos. At some point, I thought maybe the lady called Laila is hiding somewhere behind, speaking perfect Kiswahili. Let's appreciate Marcos one more time. Marcos is a co-founder, global executive SVP at Vitex, and also the president of Ecommerce Institute. All right, so we'll go into our next speaker for this morning. I'd like to invite Timothy Were. Timothy is the ICT director at the State Department of Trade, and he's here ably representing our principal secretary. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hamjambo. Yeah, welcome. Thank you. It's a great honor to be here. I receive greetings from our principals, the CS in the Ministry of Trade, Investments and Industry, and also the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of, in the State Department of Trade, who would have liked to be here, but because of other engagements, they have not been here. Otherwise, it's great to be here this morning. We've been talking a lot about the digital superhighway. We've been talking a lot about digitization, and this now is the result. When we lay fiber, when we do all the things that we are doing, it's so that we can be able to benefit from that infrastructure. And I think e-commerce really brings it out, and we are looking forward to further engagement with the private sector. Most of the ICT infrastructure lies in the hands of the private sector. Now that's better. Sorry, did you hear me from the beginning? Okay. Yes, most of the ICT infrastructure lies in the hands of the private sector. So the government has to work with the private sector if this sector is to thrive, all right? I have some remarks here I will read, sent by the Principal Secretary. He's called Mr. Alfred Kombudo. It is an honor to join you today for this edition of the E-Commerce Day East Africa, which is focused on promoting the development of digital commerce and internet business industry at the regional and global level, and accelerating the incorporation of online channels by companies and entrepreneurs who play a vital role in driving expansion of the digital economy. E-commerce has become an indispensable driver of economic growth and innovation worldwide. It has contributed immensely to connectivity of the global community through various platforms. Through e-commerce, numerous opportunities have been created through the sharing of information and digital content on various topics such as trade, finance, education, health, and business. In Africa, e-commerce presents a unique opportunity to transform our economies, empower our entrepreneurs, and enhance trade both regionally and globally. As we gather here today, we recognize that Africa's e-commerce landscape is evolving at a remarkable pace. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the digital transformation across the continent, highlighting the importance of a robust e-commerce ecosystem. Kenya, just like the other African countries, is dedicated to creating an enabling environment for e-commerce to thrive. We are working to improve the digital infrastructure, enhance online payment systems, and streamline regulatory frameworks to facilitate seamless cross-border trade and ensure consumer protection. The E-Commerce Day East Africa Forum is therefore not only a platform for dialogue, but also an opportunity for us to learn from one another, share best practices, and forge partnerships. Together, we can harness the potential of e-commerce to drive sustainable development, create jobs, and improve the livelihoods of our people. Kenya's revenue from e-commerce was projected to grow by over 6% in 2023, resulting in a projected market volume of $3.5 billion by 2027. This portrays the potential of the e-commerce sector that can aid the country's job creation and poverty reduction objectives. The government of Kenya, through the ministries, departments, and agencies that include the Ministry of Investment, Trade, and Industrialization, and the Ministry of Information, Communication, and the Digital Economy, have been involved in the development of e-commerce initiatives accessed by, among others, SMEs and young entrepreneurs. These initiatives include implementation of policies and strategies, provisions of services through e-government platform, enactment and enforcement of laws and regulations that regulate e-commerce sectors, and others that are geared towards enhancing youth employment in Kenya through online jobs. In line with the government's agenda to promote the growth of e-commerce, Kenya launched its national e-commerce strategy in December last year, that's 2023. The strategy's implementation is on course, and the State Department for Trade has undertaken the following in relation to its implementation. The National E-Commerce Strategy Implementation Committee that comprises ministries, departments, agencies, and the private sector was inaugurated on the 27th of May, 2024, and is currently involved in the implementation of activities outlined under the strategy, guided by the committee's work plan for the financial year 2024-2025. The development of a coherent e-commerce policy which anchors the national e-commerce strategy and is key in defining the government's position with respect to digital administration of international trade, especially in digital products and services, is also ongoing. Development of a digital services export strategy that seeks to position Kenya as a regional center of excellence for digital innovation and digital services exports is also currently in the process. Capacity building of MSMEs and youth on digital trade aspects, especially at the county level, is also being undertaken. Collaboration with development partners, including the World Bank, under the Kenya Digital Economy Acceleration Project, the UNCTAD and GIZ to support and undertake initiatives aimed at spurring digital transformation is ongoing, especially in areas of development of the e-commerce policy and the digital exports strategy, as well as capacity building programs and support to the Kenya National E-Commerce Strategy Implementation Committee. Alignment of Kenya's national e-commerce strategy to the regional and global strategies that relate to the digital trade, such as the East Africa Community e-commerce strategy and the African Continental Free Trade Area Protocol on e-commerce and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, number 9. The development of the Kenya e-commerce strategy comes at an opportune moment when the government intends to promote the digitalization of its services so as to make them more accessible to the public, as well as support the growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises through online trading to maximize domestic and export trade. A strong institutional framework is outlined in the strategy to ensure full implementation and achievement of its intended results. The cross-cutting nature of this strategy requires that many different parties from the private sector as well as the public sector will be involved in its implementation and hence in allocating resources and decision-making. Effective collaborations towards the implementation of this strategy will therefore be key and is aimed at providing relevant information that is a critical tool for decision-making for government agencies, the private sector stakeholders, and the business community who depend on it to provide the required standard of goods and services for market access. Partnerships towards implementation of the strategy between Kenya and her development partners, including those present at this event, are therefore encouraged. Kenya is grateful to USAID and the E-Trade Alliance that have been instrumental in supporting the country's efforts towards developing the e-commerce sector and also for organizing this event. Development support from USAID and initiatives such as Prosper Africa and the President's Digital Transformation with Africa have allocated significant finances and resources towards ICT infrastructure, human capital development, and promoting the digital economy, enabling environment. In Kenya, some of the key initiatives being undertaken by USAID include the Google Hustle Academy e-commerce training, Brighter Monday Kenya, eBiz kwa vijana, and e-commerce day, which will showcase Kenya's e-commerce sector players, including the platforms, service providers, and technology companies. In conclusion, allow me once again to thank the organizers of these events, participants from far and wide, who include players within the e-commerce sector and development partners present, for their continued support towards promoting the growth and development of e-commerce sector in Kenya. We encourage all participants at this forum to engage actively in issues, and we've been told AI and emerging technology, the issues of inclusivity and diversity, and also cross-border issues. To engage actively in the issues under discussion. Let us collectively shape the future of e-commerce in Africa, ensuring its benefits to everyone and leaving no one behind. Thank you very much.
Much, Mr. Were. Let's give him another warm round of applause. Of course, we all know that the government has played quite a key role in creating an enabling environment for a thriving e-commerce space in Kenya. And of course, the size of this room goes to imprint that a little bit more. All right, so we are ready for our next speaker now, who will be our keynote for this morning. And he will be taking us through the future of e-commerce, blending opportunities in the global sector, challenges and opportunities in the local space as well. Our keynote speaker this morning is Vinod Goel. He's a truly global citizen, has lived and worked in 7 countries across 3 continents, and has been to more than 55 countries. He's currently the CEO of Jumia East Africa, and hence at the forefront of e-commerce, retail, and the digital world. Prior to this, he's been in the software and manufacturing sector and has worked across strategy, M&A, finance, commercial, and supply chain functions. He's an electronics engineer and holds an MBA in international business in India and ESCP in France. So let's put our hands together for Vinod, who loves to keep himself fit and entertained by playing various sports, hiking, running, and full body strength training. So Vinod, I hope we're going to see that on stage. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
You can do a stand-up if you want.
So, yeah, of course. Let's start with that. Skip all the slides. Okay. The picture you're seeing on the screen right now is James. Next to him is his friend Peter. I met them during my visit to the market in a small town called Ahero. And my first question goes to James is that, why did you buy anything, whatever you bought from Jumia? And so he said, I bought a pair of shoes. And I said, okay, why did you buy it from Jumia then? You can easily buy a pair of shoes in Ahero. And he said, we have 2 shops in Ahero which sells pair of shoes. And both of them are very expensive simply because there are only 2 shops. And I said, okay, you could have easily get them from Nairobi. And he said, yes, I'm a factory worker. There is a small factory near Ahero, and this is where I work. Even to get the shoes from Jumia's pickup station, I need to take a 3-hour leave to collect their shoes. So he turned the questions to me, is that why don't you have your pickup station close to my town, which was Awach, probably 15 minutes drive from Ahero. And I still continue asking him, is that maybe you have to pay 400, 500 more shillings for your shoes from the shop. You can still buy it instead of driving or taking a boda for 15 minutes to come to Jumia's pickup station. And he said that on Jumia, there is a possibility if I don't like the shoes, I'm able to return them even after 7 days. So for me, James kind of summarized the e-commerce. He talked about quality. He talked about availability of items, which is the biggest piece in the e-commerce in Africa. He talked about the ability to return an item which, if you don't like it. And he talked about the current problem that you are not everywhere and we need you everywhere. So that is the starting point of e-commerce in Africa. And I will tell you a little bit more about it. So as our MC introduced, my name is Vinod Goyal. I'm CEO for Jumia East Africa. Currently means Kenya and Uganda. In future, it can be many more countries. And I'm tasked to make e-commerce work in these 2 countries. I'm still not used to how to move it in the right direction. Okay, so we're going to talk mainly 2 topics. One is e-commerce for Africa. How do we make it work? What are the normal conventional ideas around it? But how do we have to tweak it for our local context? And secondly, its unseen impact on the economy. So starting with the first one, let's bore ourselves a little bit with the macros. We have business people sitting in the room and everybody loves the numbers. So let's start with some of those numbers. Kenya, as you know, is becoming a hub, digital landscape, mobile tech, digital finance, everything is coming here. It's the 3rd largest e-commerce market, and we are seeing a huge economic growth and innovation. In terms of macros, let's see what macros are relevant for e-commerce. Our internet penetration is still small. When you see 40% looks big, but it means 60% of the people are off-grid. These are the people who are not able to access internet in any form. We have, and now we are saying, I don't know if this number will be true, in 1 year, this penetration will go to 53%, which means what we are trying to say is that even though it is small today, it is increasing rapidly. The total market side of e-commerce can be 900 million, 2 billion, very difficult to validate these numbers, but it's big. Second thing, quickly, another macro which is important is our population. Kenya has young tech-savvy population. So if you club out the 0 to 12 and above 55, that takes out around 40% of the population, which means 60% of the population is still relevant, very, very relevant, even though we have started to see the kids of 8, 9 years starting to push their parents to buy things online and asking their questions of why you're wasting your time. I have a 10-year-old boy, keeps asking me a lot of questions, and also a lot of improvements, how Jumia can be improved. So we can't actually ignore that population. But finally, we have a lot of young population, tech-savvy population, who is going to fuel the e-commerce growth. Another important element, 70% of the population is outside urban areas. And this is not only Nairobi, even towns like Kisumu, Mombasa, we are putting them in urban areas. It still means that 70% of our population is just not here. So what did we see? We see that the penetration of internet, smartphone is low. We have a lot of young people who might not be transacting on e-commerce. And then we have 70% of the population who is not even living in the urban areas. Okay. When we see these fundamentals, And we go back to the usual e-commerce equation. So as MC introduced, I have the opportunity of living in Europe, in Southeast Asia, where e-commerce is booming. The usual understanding of e-commerce, that you will go into a country to open e-commerce only when this equation works, which means population size, population density, and GDP per capita. In plain English, you want a lot of people concentrated in a small place with a lot of disposable money. If this works, you open an e-commerce company. Otherwise, you stay away. Okay. Now, this equation does not work in our context. Fortunately, unfortunately, we saw some fundamentals here. We have young population, our GDP per capita, many of our countries, Kenya itself, goes in the lowest 25th percentile in GDP per capita. Our population is outside urban areas. It is scattered. Why do we still do it? And is there any way to do it? And that is why, how do we tweak e-commerce to make it work in Africa? So you need to redesign it to make it work. It can still work. In fact, it is working very well. Of course, we all have challenges. Marcos was giving me some of the numbers of how Mercado Libre, which is Jumia of Latin America, is growing rapidly, and what are the learnings we can have from them or they can have from us. And ultimately, for the region, you have to redesign the value proposition. You cannot use the conventional e-commerce processes to make it work in your region. So we will talk about this a little bit, and hence we'll try to find out what are those factors which we need to pay attention in the local context, and then how we need to work around them. Okay, that will be the first part of the topic. By the way, Marcus, this is the picture I used from ChatGPT. You were asking me if do you use it or not. I was running out of pictures, just use ChatGPT. Okay, so rewriting the equation, we need to include the rural population. Now, we cannot say, I'm just gonna bring e-commerce in the urban areas. You are only gonna target 30% of the population, not enough as a size, so you need to include them. You need to include the off-grid. Remember, the internet penetration was only 40%, so you cannot exclude 60% who are not on the internet. Then you need to address the needs. This is very, very important. Conventional e-commerce tries to look for, again, people concentrated in one place with a lot of disposable money. If we chase this, we're not gonna find a lot of people in our context. So we need to, and that disposable money is actually catering to more of the desires and the wants than maybe the needs, simply because the margin in the needs is much lower. And hence we need to address the needs part instead of, and not only the wants and desires. You can also do that. And then lastly is the cost and the convenience balance. We'll talk about the 4 boxes a little bit more. So first, before we go there, I will do a small introduction about Jumia and how Jumia is going to work on these and is been working on those topics. But just before that, for the attendees here, a quick introduction about Jumia. So Jumia has the 3 main pillars of marketplace, which means it has the website and the application. It has its own logistics and also the payment, the Jumia Pay, which allows you to do the transactions. Jumia is currently present in 9 countries, as you can see on the map. This story started in 2012. A lot of people call it a madness. That time, those macros were looking even worse. So I will not go through all the events. I think some of the big events were in 2019 when the company got public. It was the first, got the fancy name of the unicorn from Africa. It got listed in New York Stock Exchange. Brings a lot of troubles also, by the way, when you go public. It's not the best fancy thing to do, but yet it happened. In 2021, we started to bring our tech center has, from the day one, has been in Portugal, and we wanted to bring it back to Africa. All our operations, all the sales and shopping happens in Africa via the tech center outside. So after that, Egypt became the first tech center in Africa. Then we went to Nigeria, and in the last 2 years, we have brought the tech center to Nairobi, which is becoming the biggest and the fastest growing tech center in Kenya. We have around 40 developers sitting right next to the fulfillment center in our warehouse and developing the technology which matters. Okay. Just quickly on the brand recall, Jumia stands at number 9 in terms of brand across the continent. But if you look in the technology sector, it's one of the leading brand. Our average monthly visits, again, all these numbers are only for African region. Jumia has 72.4 million monthly visits, and then you have the other e-commerce players. Jumia has the benefit of being into multiple markets, while the other countries are mostly in 1 or 2 markets in Africa. It is the largest localized retail platform. It comes in the top 3 downloaded shopping app. More than 50 million downloads, more than 800 million online visits. And the last one is quite interesting. I have not got one single person who is outside Jumia, and maybe a lot of inside Jumia who can guess how many products we have online. So now, since you can see the number, it's 220 million across all the 9 countries. But within Kenya, if you go on Jumia platform, you are going to see 22 million SKUs. 22 million SKUs. So some people say, yeah, you have the color variation and the size variation. If you divide that number by 4, you are still talking about a huge number. And that is the variety and the assortment Jumia can bring. Moving on. Again, you are a localized partner, so you cannot only work with PayPal's and Visa and MasterCard. You have to work with every single payment provider in every country. This slide cannot capture it. We are in 9 countries. Every country has 4 or 5 players. Of course, Kenya is simplified because of M-Pesa's big share, but you need to integrate with every single partner to be able to do the money transactions. Also, Jumia has been able to, in the last decade, develop a comprehensive logistics, both physical and technological. So all the 6, 7 applications, the driver app, the warehouse, the OMS, the inventory management, everything has been built inside, because off-the-shelf products just simply do not cater to our local context. Simply the transportation, a lot of 3PLs, a lot of transportation companies who have now started working in the parcel business were actually ex-Jumia employees, and we are proud of that we are able to bring that kind of skill set in the country. There are some big numbers here, how many meter squares of warehouse, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think we need to go it. The important part is that the whole logistic, whole process, every single scan which was important in our context was not important in the context outside Africa. So when an item goes from our warehouse to the last mile pickup station and comes back, it has been scanned 28 times. Simply because of the security reasons, simply because of the tracking reasons, and also all the hops it has to do to reach the final consumer. Okay, so quick introduction, because Marcos told me you cannot do too much marketing about Jumia. I said I'm going to be fast about it. But again, we need to talk about it, that how do we solve those 4 issues? So let's talk about the first 2 issues, including rural population and including off-grid. There are 2 different population set which we are trying to solve, but we try to solve them through one solution. The solution is J-Force. So Jumia has to come up with a solution of commission agents across the country, because you have a huge population, as we saw, 70% people living outside, 60% population does not have internet access. How do you bring them online? And you cannot afford to exclude them. These are the people who either do not have smartphone or internet or the digital literacy, and a combination of any of these 3. So we have around 20,000 agents across the country, 8,000 of them active, which means this agent has done at least 1 transaction in the last week. And these people are 100% freelancing. They make commission on every single sale they do. Now, it is very important that you need to still stick to the e-commerce. You are an e-commerce company and you're not going to make it an offline business, right? So every single transaction still happens online. So this agent will walk to you and say, okay, sir and ma'am, are you looking for something? These are the deals. This is what is happening on Jumia. There is the campaign. What would you like to order? And they will place the order for you. It has to be 100% online. Everything follows the same thing. The order goes to our systems. Order is fulfilled. The order will be delivered to the customer's address. So only from this, except the starting point, everything stays digital. And hence, it's a perfect blend of offline and online. Brand activations, these people are very strong in helping us bringing the brand. So there can be a local brand who comes and says, I want to improve my brand presence in Kisumu or in even in Lamu in the island. And these people, we have the regional city captain in each city, and these people bring the agents together and they do a brand activation. And hence, in 5 days, you will see the sales of your brand in those areas, which you probably have never seen before. These people are also very important for us to give the customer feedback. So again, even if the people are buying things online, they're not easily giving the feedback. So the amount of reviews we have, okay, they still go in millions, but they are not enough because we have sold multi-million items in the last 10 years. The amount of reviews we get is still very low, and hence it is very difficult for us to know which item is working well. Are we able to really listen to our customers? These people are able to bring us real insights, and also what is not available on Jumia. So we have a very frequent catch up with these people to understand what else we need to bring for the people. Okay, going to the second block of the puzzle, which is addressing the needs. Here, it is very easy to work with international brands because the recall value of the brands is very big and easy. So if somebody is looking for a shoe, you can always talk about some international brands like Bata, Puma, Nike, Adidas. But how much of that will you be able to sell? So for each category, you need to find out what people want, at what price. And I get a lot of these questions and complaints in my network is that why you're selling these kind of shoes? Why you're not selling Adidas? And we say we are selling Adidas as well, but it's the customer who decides. It's not Jumia who will decide what to sell. It's simply the customer who will one day, they will decide what is the right price, what is the right quality, and what is the right brand to be sold on Jumia. Jumia is nothing but a marketplace. It's a reflection. And this is also the e-commerce. The e-commerce cannot come with its own theory and the easy way of working with the big brands. You need to really, really adapt of what sells in the market. So just to give you some glimpse of what sells, I'm a little bit spilling the beans and giving a little bit more insights of what is selling. And some of the Jumia team members who are here, they're laughing. So in TV category, it's not Sony, LG, and mind you, all those things are available. All the sizes of Sonys and LGs are available on Jumia. But what sells most is the 43-inch TV of one of the local brands. This brand does not exist outside Kenya. So if we do not crack the right deal on this TV, we will be selling 60% lesser TVs in Kenya. And similar goes on other categories. Smartphone, not even the mid-range of Samsung Galaxies, which used to be selling here. And so if you see the smartphone evolution, in the last 3 years, the average price of the smartphone has dropped from $300 to $100. And this is a continuous process you need to do. You need to continuously work with the emerging local brands. And again, we need to accept the fact that we might not be selling the most reputed brand. This is what not people are looking for. They probably are looking for a $80, $90, $70 phone, which works for 18 months. Customer has to decide it. We can't decide, no, you have to buy a good quality product. It's the customer who decides what kind of quality, for how long do you want it. And if you do not adapt it and you continuously trying to push and make your platform a premium platform while maybe the customers are not yet there, you might be disconnected. And hence, it is not about the pride that you're selling the best brands, it's about the pride that you're selling the most relevant brands. beauty tools. It's a hair clipper. The cost is less than $10. Again, we have the Philips and the likes. Those go for $70 and $80. But which sells the most is a local brand clipper, which goes for this. Small appliances, bags in accessories. Who wants to guess what is the most sold item in men's fashion? Shoes? Men's fashion? Watch, shoes. The most sold item. It's a little bit funny. I'm trying to avoid it, but I don't think I can skip it so fast. Sorry? Boxers. Yes. It has to be a pack of 6. Nobody is buying 1 or 2 because it's too expensive. And this pack of boxers, I don't know, Daisy, if you know it, but very cheap, but sells like crazy. It's the most sold item in our platform. Thousands and thousands of boxes. And again, you have the jockeys and CKs there in the platform. They're also selling, mind you. So please don't think that Jumia is a cheap brand seller. You have every single brand across the phones. You have right now the iPhone Smart 15 Pro, and you have the LG's biggest 75-inch TV. You have all of those. We are selling Adidas and Nikes. But what we are trying to say is that while you're keeping them, which is easy, what is very important is to find out what sells the most and what people would love to buy. Okay, going to the last one, also very important. Balancing the cost and the convenience, or balancing the expense and the experience. You can always work on giving the best experience to the customer. That's easy. That's not difficult. So we see people complaining, hey, we have this, my order is not coming in 1 day. It is all doable. We can switch tomorrow some tools, and in 2 days, and I have my head of logistics and head of fulfillment sitting here, they can switch tools and we can do the same day delivery in Nairobi. It will just take me 2 hours, okay, to do it. But can we afford it? Do we want it today? We are able to deliver to Kisumu. Kisumu is 2 to 3 days, right, Moody? We can deliver it next day. Kisumu is not far. It's a 5-hour drive, possible. But then we will not be able to consolidate enough orders to be able to make it as cheap as we want or the customers want, right? So how do you crack a balance is super, super important. Then you need to find out a way is that where is the right cursor, and it's so hard to find it out. So there are many things which we have to do there. I'll just give you a glimpse of few elements and then move to the next step. So we had to pause door delivery in many, many towns. Jumia is available in around 300 towns where we are delivering. Now, in some of the towns, we cannot do door delivery simply because when you have the option of picking up from a pickup station, your order, or you want the order to be delivered in your doorstep, of course, there is a price difference. And what we saw is that more than 90% of people are choosing pickup station. While when you do the surveys, everybody wants it to be delivered their house. The moment we say, okay, when you want it to be delivered your house, you have to pay 100 bobs extra. 90% people goes back to pickup station. So can you have a door delivery option in a city with only 10 orders? You can't. So you have to pause it. And again, this is the thing then, and you are still receiving continuous feedback from the towns that why don't you have door delivery in my town? Why Jumia cannot do it? Jumia can do it. Is it physically, is it economically viable? Not. And hence you have to take such hard calls of pausing a door delivery in many, many towns. Same thing, I was giving an example of alternate day dispatch. We have many cities where we are not able to deliver in 1 day, 2 days, or even 3 days. We have some towns where we have to give a promise of 3 to 4 days. It is simply because we want to consolidate enough so that the shipping fees is minuscule and it does not impact you. Cash on delivery, again, it's a rewriting of the situation. It is very, very important. It hurts us, to be honest. It will hurt any e-commerce company that you are shipping $5 or $2 phone case 800 kilometers away without knowing that that customer will pick up your phone when that phone is at the pickup station. It happens. That phone cover will stay in the pickup station for 6 days, and 17% of our deliveries come back. The customer did not even care to pick up the call, and they are called 3 times. They send 3 SMSs, and now we introduce WhatsApp as well. And it happens. Customer is still the king. For whatever reason, customer either ran out of the money, or they bought it cheaper or better from Jumia, possible. And hence, we have to bring that item back. And now imagine the cost you have gone through on a $3 phone case, all the logistics you have paid, and you have not made any money out of it, and you still have to do it. You cannot not have cash on delivery options in our context. Actually, many of these customers, when I talked to them, they said, we were actually just trying. We did not know that you will really bring it. I'm surprised you brought it. Okay, so that's a little bit of the network of Jumia, how we are continuously going further and further, smaller and smaller towns. We used to target towns which has at least 100,000 population. Now we are at 40,000 population. It'll probably go lower and lower as the economies of scale grow. Again, very touchy subject. And do you have the courage to do the right thing, but not the easy thing? So 2 years back, when I was in fulfillment and all the team, we wanted to do 2 things. We said, we need to reduce our plastic footprint and also the amount of packaging we waste. E-commerce is notorious for this, that we do too much over packaging. And we decided to cut down that packaging. Now, what happens when you cut down the packaging? Your package looks ugly, right? Now, what call do you want to take it? So do you want to keep it as beautiful as this one? We still have those packages. We are not able to 100%. But this package is the one I just took a picture of this in the warehouse before coming to this session. And what is it? Inside, you might have some grocery item, a pack of shampoo and a pair of shoes. And what is the carton outside? This is the carton which was used by our sellers. When they send the stock to our warehouse, we don't throw their cartons. We simply take them and wrap it in our outbound, right? And we got a lot of complaints when we did it 2 years back, when we started sending these ugly packages to our customers, say, what is Jumia doing, saving the cost and everything? Yes, we are saving the cost, going to the customers. But what was more important here was the sustainable action. So whenever I get this question of what are you doing in sustainability, I do not have fancy stories of net zeros, etc. I have one picture which I show, is that when you receive a TV from Jumia, you will not see any packaging. It has already done enough damage of having lots of thermocols on it and 2 layers of the carton on it, and then the plastic layer on it. We just simply stick our invoice with a small tape, goes to the customer. Customer don't like it. Then we started putting a small sticker, green sticker, and we started to saying, customer, you are helping the planet by receiving this package happily and not pushing us for the more packaging. So did we save the cost? Yes. Again, yes. I'm not going to shy away that it is only a CSR and a sustainability. It's a stone hitting the 2 birds, right? We are doing the right thing and we are saving the cost. These benefits are going to go to the customers ultimately. So these are just the examples of rewriting the equation. Okay, it's the cost to convenience and the expense to the experience. You can give a great experience by wrapping more and more plastic and fancy packaging, but sometimes you have to take the hard calls. Okay, I think, sorry, I'm going a bit slow, but we covered the first part of e-commerce for Africa. We just scratched the surface of what we have to do to make it work here. There are many, many thousands and thousand elements, of course, which we cannot cover. I'll try to go quickly on the second one, which is unseen impact on the economy. How does it impact? And again, here we have thousands of things, but I'll try to talk about 2-3 topics. One, e-commerce is a demographic equalizer. Again, I have thousands of stories and I can't tell all of them. But for a seller who is selling on Luthuli Avenue or in a small market in Thika, the radius for their market is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers, right? The moment you list an item on an e-commerce platform, and I need to stop saying Jumia now, on any e-commerce platform, whole country is your market. 300 towns will be ordering whatever you're selling. Okay, that's a demographic. You're removing all the blockers for the seller. What is even more important is for the customers. As we know, 70% of our people are living outside Nairobi and urban populations. This population has access. So if this population wants to buy a cattle, you will find the average price of the cattle where Jumia is not able to live or e-commerce platform is around $6 to $7. The moment you bring an e-commerce platform pickup station there, the price of the cattle goes to $3 to $4. The blue cattle I was showing you goes for $3.5. I'm talking in dollars because we have some international friends as well. And then you are telling the people outside Nairobi and outside Kisumu's is that you have access to the same 20 million products at the same price what you find in the wholesale market in Nairobi. And you still don't have to go to Nairobi. The only thing you have to do is the smallest shipping fees. So a shipping fees on a cattle would be 200 bob. So what are you doing? You are telling the people that you are not underprivileged if you're not living in an urban area. You have all the products, access to them. You don't have to move out of your house, and you will get them at the same price as Nairobi. A huge demographic equalizer for the customers. Second big impact on of e-commerce on the economy is birth to a D2C market. I think many of us, we still are new to this world. D2C is direct to customer market. This market is very, very small, almost non-existent if you really compare it with Southeast Asia and other areas where e-commerce, Marcos was telling me, e-commerce penetration in Latin America, big countries is 20%. We are at 3%. Only 3% of the total retail in our context happens online. And because of this, we are seeing that we do not have a lot of D2C. What is a D2C market? When a young guy comes out of the college and wants to start a company, you need to have manufacturing or import of the product. You need to have the sales team. You need to have the marketing team. You need to find a way to collect your money. You have already sold it, but no money is coming in. You need to have after sales and customer experience. Do you think we are capable of doing it? Do you think when you and me were able to coming out of the college, we can open a company and do all these things? Very difficult, especially in the scenario where the funding for these guys are very, very basic. If you have e-commerce platform, the only thing you need to do is to get your product. If you want to sell shoes, find a way to make shoes. You either make them or import them or whatever. After that, you can just list it on the e-commerce platform, and tomorrow onwards, you are getting the orders from the whole country. Once you have become bigger, then of course, open all the departments, go bigger, become a multinational. But for you to try and open a company and start a business, you need a platform which does everything for you except your product. And I think this is the reason why e-commerce gives a birth to D2C market. I originate from India, even though I'm outside of India for 15, 20 years. Every time I go back there, 15 years back, if I have to buy a pair of jeans, it has to be the same international brands of H&M, Zara, and Levi's and all, maybe 5, 6 brands. Today, if I want to buy jeans in India, it is even more difficult because now you have 800 brands selling jeans and you don't know what to buy. Another problem, but anyway, who are these people? I know personally a lot of my classmates from engineering, from MBA, who have ditched corporates and have started their own brands. They're happy to have a $500,000, $1 million, $5 million brand. Perfectly fine, small companies giving such a boost to economy. And how they're doing it? Simply sourcing the right jeans and right t-shirts, selling them on the platform, on Flipkart, on Amazon, and a couple of others. And once they know the product market fit is good, they make the companies bigger and start now exporting to the different regions. We have many brands out of India coming and selling across the region. A lot of them are actually trying to come on Jumia in Africa as well. Why we can't do it? We can also do it. So for us, we have a platform. Look at the e-commerce platforms, not only Jumia, but many others, and find your products, start your own companies, give a boost to the economy, and we don't have to look only for the jobs. Sorry. I think this thing is dying out of battery. There is any other way to change the slide? Okay. So wrapping it up, if e-commerce done right, it can drastically increase affordability. Remember the pair of shoes or the cattle? If you do it well, you simply have an optimized supply chain. You're not going from manufacturer to the distributor, to the wholesaler, to the retailer, and then to the consumer. It's as simple as that. There is no magic here. E-commerce brings it from the source directly to the consumer. You have optimized supply chain. You understand the customer. Your product starts to be affordable, and they are available for everyone, everywhere. It can create thousands of tech and digital jobs. No need to elaborate it. It can turn our SMEs into MNCs, and also can give birth to thousands and thousands of new SMEs who will become MNCs later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vinod. I believe he deserves a warm round of applause, sharing with us some great insights. Vinod, I know you did not show us that brand of the TV, but I'm one of those who got it on Black Friday a few years ago. Quite big, I must say, but at a wonderful price. So, and thanks for sharing some of those insights. I was curious about, the 70% market in the rural areas, especially given Kenya, where we believe, we're growing quite fast in the e-commerce space, but as you say, it's just 3%. So there's so much more that we as players in the digital space can get into, but I guess this will form a basis of some of the conversations that we'll be getting into in the course of the day. So I'd like to now welcome our panelists for the first interactive session, the first panel discussion. The focus of this panel discussion will be innovative e-commerce trends, what retailers need to know to stay ahead. For this panel, I would like to welcome John Mureithi, who's joining us from Visa. He's a merchant acquiring lead East Africa at Visa. As I call you, please make your way to the stage. Let's give John a warm round of applause. He's coming from the back. Ruth Kabogo, Sales and Marketing Manager, Kenya at FedEx. Ruth, karibu sana to the stage. And Adriano Silva, Head of Global Sales at Vitex. Let's give Adriano a warm round of applause as he comes to the stage. All right, as we sort out the screen, because there's some data that I'd like us to look at. So this session will be looking at innovative e-commerce trends, what retailers need to know to stay ahead. And we have the pleasure of discussing these key trends with some of our panelists who I have just introduced, and they represent logistics, payments, and platforms as well. Now, to kick off our first question, I'd like to share a statistic which should be on our screens in just a moment. Oh, there we go. All right, so you can see some of the statistics that are presented on the screen. The US Department of Commerce reports that e-commerce penetration in Africa is expected to reach 40% by the year 2025. Now that's next year, reflecting a steady 17% compound annual growth rate in online computers, as you can see on the screen. So if we consider some of these figures that we're looking at, I'd like to start the discussion with Ruth. Ruth, could you share with us, from a logistics perspective, perhaps a logistics trend that you've seen that you believe is crucial in sustaining the e-commerce growth that we're seeing in the years to come?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Terry. Before I even speak about the logistics trends, I think the first thing we need to speak about is who uses the platforms, who is buying, who is in the e-commerce space. And I just want to talk about, some of the people that are going online, and we have different generations. For example, if you look at the trends, you'll find that a lot of Gen Zs, the millennials, we do have a couple of Gen X on these platforms. And what is it they're looking for? They're looking for convenience. They're looking for ease. They're looking to engage with the platform in the most simplest of ways. And so one of the requirements or expectations that we must meet is to make it as easy as possible for the end consumer, and of course, even for the person that's selling the item. So some of the trends that are there in the logistics industries, obviously, to make it easy, the consumer wants to see how easy it is for them to that visibility to the consumer and give that visibility to the producer or the provider of the item. Number two is basically to provide tools that allow the platform owners to be able to interact with the end consumer. And that's where API comes in. So just to explain in simple terms, API is what gives you the interface to connect one application with another. So we as providers or logistics providers, we provide that interface or that door so that you can connect your consumers, connect the technology, the platform, and make it as easy as possible to the end consumer.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. I'd like to, and I know that logistics is going to come up again, throughout the day. It's one of the key pain points for a number of businesses that are, within the e-commerce space. So it will be interesting to see what else is being done. We've got another figure that will be on our screens right now. All right. Now, another key factor is being ready to serve users with mobile-first strategy, especially in a market like ours, as we already know. Now, according to data from GSMA, there may be about 438 million mobile broadband users in Africa by 2030. We know now what that means in terms of how important it will be to have a mobile-first strategy. Now, additionally, Africa leads globally in mobile device web traffic generation, with about 69% of its total web traffic coming from mobile internet users in 2021 alone. And the US Department of Commerce forecasts that Africa will become an almost exclusively mobile-based market by 2040. And you can see some of these statistics on our screens right now. And with that in mind, I'd like to ask Adriano what the architecture of an e-commerce platform should include to effectively serve a predominantly mobile-first market.
Sure. So first of all, I'm very happy to be here again. I don't know if you know, but I was here 7 years ago. And really, I feel another Nairobi very different from 7 years ago. I'm so happy. I don't know if you people in the back can hear me. I think let's try to do a petit comité. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And again, I'm happy we are here outside. We can talk to each other. I use an analogy from Marcos, who is here. You see the helmets here. We were founded with fans of Ayrton Senna, and we always say that in the Formula One, we need to have three parts. One is the car. So yes, we provided the car, the best car. The second is the driver. So we needed the driver on the other side. We need someone from our customers to be operating the e-commerce. And we need the engineering teams, the partners, who are the ecosystems. So I see here many partners who are part of this ecosystem that the government is creating together with you guys. And when I was in China, answered this about mobile first. And it's a tricky question when we see the numbers, and I will try to explain why. Because again, when we talk about architecture, I always say, architecture is a technical way to ask, but I try to make it simple. It's like in a team, when we are building a team or a company, we always need the three H's. The hipster is the marketing guy. The hacker, who is the architecture, is like when we are going to build a house, we need the architecture or a building. And hustler, who is going to negotiate and sell the products. And one phrase that I was telling there in China was from Nelson Mandela, is that education is the most powerful weapon, because it's very easy to come here and do brainwashing with people, but it's like we have what we call PWA. It's Apple. It's a app responsive from the web services, from the websites, because you don't need sometimes to create a native app. When I ask you, take your mobile, how many apps you have in your mobiles downloaded? Let's say 30 apps. But I always say to the companies and my customers, the key challenge is how you stay in the first page of the iPhone, Android. When you download all the apps and you have 10 pages, how you make your app to be the first page? Because you are using Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and all the companies. So it's not easy to have these native apps. This is the first thing I want to clarify. But on the other hand, yes, we can use technologies like PWA's responsive, that you can go in the Safari, you can go in the Google Chrome, and you can enable people like us to buy in the mobile first approach.
Thank you so much, Adriano, and we'll come back to discuss that a little bit more. John, I'd like to rope you into the conversation. There's another trend I'd love to hear your insights on localized payment approaches. Could you share a little bit more with us about this, and how can e-commerce businesses in the region leverage this trend to increase sales?
Thanks, Teria, and good morning. So last time I was here was 1 year ago, and like Arnoldo has mentioned, it's always good to be here. It really connects very much with all of you, what you're trying to do, each of us individually, but collectively moving the e-commerce world forward. So thank you, Terian. I think from an East African perspective, East Africa is maybe one of the most diversified markets that you could talk about in Africa. So in terms of your question, it's very important to then have that foresight, even as you build the e-commerce solutions for the consumers, that the diversification is very important. Another area that you need to think about is segmentation. What are you building it for? Is it agriculture? Which segment are you going into? A third thing that I think that is very important is the cross-border, so that you enable the consumers to connect, whether it's on a B2B or a B2C, across seamlessly. And one of the things we do at Visa is enable whether it's merchants or B2B players to be able to do that effortlessly. So whatever solution someone is building, underneath that, and one of the things that I see has happened across Africa, and it goes to the same, is there's a proliferation of digital wallets that is growing significantly across Africa. And one of the things and why that is growing is because of enabling what Ruth was talking about in terms of convenience, enabling consumers to be able to do effortlessly pay in whichever website I am on. So that has enabled that growth. And from our perspective, what we do then at the back of it is just enable whichever solution somebody is deploying. As Visa, we are the payment gateway, and we enable that effortlessly. Yeah. Can I just add something on what you asked earlier? I think beyond convenience, it's very important to just bear security at the back of your mind, even as you build solutions, because I think Vinod is the one who talked about 3% penetration of internet. One of the reasons why we have such a low number is beyond convenience is security. I don't want to go online and put my credentials or my card details or whatever else because I'm afraid of hacking. Now, in terms of that, one of the things that we need to do collectively as a team is education, because sometimes customers don't know the new technologies that are there to protect you. So whether it's things to do with tokenization that we do together with our FIs or any other of those solutions, it's very important to do that collectively. So if you ask me, what are the main trends that somebody needs to build? Convenience is one. Another one is education, to be able to educate your customers, whether you're using a bot or ChatGPT or whatever you're using. That education element is very important. I just wanted to say that as well.
All right. Thank you so much, John. So we'll look at another issue as well. We pursue localized payment approaches when our strategy is customer-centered. And that leads me to think of another approach that is also a growing trend on our continent, putting the consumer truly at the heart of strategy, and that is omni-channel. Now, of course, omni-channel is a business strategy that integrates all the communication and sales channels of a company, aiming to provide a seamless and cohesive shopping experience for the customer. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask Ruth, what should e-commerce logistics do to support an omni-channel strategy effectively?
Thank you for that question, Terry. And yeah, it's just amazing how buying has changed. You can start or begin your experience from an online platform and end it at the store, and the experience is the same. And I guess that's the beauty of it. Yeah. So I think there are different ways to be able to enhance this. Aside from what I've already talked about, which is technology, I think I want to first of all talk about I remember back in the day when we were in school and learning about international business, for example, because e-commerce is both local, it's also international. So I'll speak a bit of both. And I remember that one of the ways that was recommended to be able to, sell your product out of country globally was you needed an agent within, or you needed an agent without, or you needed a retail partner within a different part of the world. And I guess one of the limitations was just the amount that one can produce because not everyone is, like a big timer in terms of manufacturing. So where do you start if you're an SME, for example? And so e-commerce has been a game changer in a big way, because you can actually choose your niche market. And where we come as logistics companies is you no longer have to be in each and every one of those countries. As long as the logistics partner is there, for example, like we said, Jumia or FedEx, which is what we do in over 220 countries, we do understand the unique requirements of the different customs requirements. So we are able to support and make sure that you get to focus on your product, you get to focus on providing the experience, and we handle the last part and make sure that your product gets there safely and the customer gets to enjoy the experience, as it were. So that's obviously one of the ways. And that last mile, the last mile is almost everything. We can do everything right, have the platform, the payment is done, which is very important, but it's critical that we provide the last mile delivery, and there are different ways, a myriad of ways. It can be delivery to your doorstep. It can be providing a pickup location that makes it possible for you to have that product at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth. And Vinod had actually also earlier alluded to, the pickup location. And yes, you can start off your online shopping experience, online. And at the end of the day, one prefers to actually pick it up. So it's interesting to see that. Adriano, I'd like to get your thoughts as well on the same topic. How can an e-commerce platform approach implementing an omni-channel strategy?
Perfect. And just to make sure we are in a safe environment here, again, I want to try to make a safe environment. I asked this question last week. I was in Saudi Arabia. I live in Dubai now, here just 3 hours flight. And I asked, what is omnichannel for you? And 10 people, they gave me 10 different answers. So if I ask the audience here, because we are going to hear a lot about omnichannel, and people came and they put different definitions, right? But my way and our way to define omnichannel is like, think about the consumer, we as a consumer. So I want to buy, and I search online before I buy anything. I can search online, yes, and I can make a decision in the physical store. Okay, so how can we connect the online world with the offline world? Offline world, let's think about the physical stores. And I will give what omnichannel do is connecting online with offline, but it's also a challenge to connect the experience. How can I make the experience in the online world connected with the offline world? So can I buy online and pick up in the store? Yes. As a consumer, can I be in the store and buy online to avoid the line because it's a holiday? Could I do it? So omnichannel is like, if you are aligned with the consumer want to do. So if I want to say, I want to buy online, but I don't want this product to be delivered at home. I want this product to be delivered at the pharmacy, which is right around the corner. Is it possible? Oh, or in the terms of payments, as our colleague was saying, payments. Can I have different payments to pay my bill? Can I split in 2 credit cards if I don't have a limit? Can I pay part with gift points and another part with Visa and another part with cash? So this is for me, omnichannel, when you think about the consumer, we as a consumer, and you connect the physical in the offline and the online world. And I think it's a very good way for companies today. And it's a very huge challenge. Few companies are doing omnichannel.
Thank you, Adriano. John, would you weigh in your thoughts on omnichannel strategies from a payments perspective?
I think Adriano has spoken on my behalf, but I just want to say I agree 100% on what he has said. I think the only other thing I could add, from an omnichannel perspective, remember the customer is interacting with the brand. He's not interacting with an experience. It's the experience, but it's a brand that you have to remember. So whether you give him a physical experience or an online experience, it's your brand. That's the most important thing to remember. That's just what I just wanted to add, that the customer has got to experience the brand all through the journey. So to Adriano's point, I think the different payment options are there as well. Maybe just one thing that we also give as Visa, and I see it as also as a trend, especially on the omni-channel perspective. We are seeing trends where consumers are, to his point, what he said, consumers are starting to do a purchase, but I'll like these shoes, I bought them online, but I didn't pay the entire amount. I paid a small amount. And by the time, because I knew what I needed to do, in 3 months, I was able to fulfill the rest of the purchases. My last installment, I did in the physical store. So from his perspective, that is something that we are starting to see as a trend. And even you, if you're building an experience for customers, you must always remember that perspective to give them that brand experience holistically. That's all I wanted.
Thanks, John. And that speaks to actually something that Vinod had mentioned earlier about, e-commerce companies suffering because sometimes a customer is ready, places an order, but takes about 5-6 days, does not pick up, and 17% of the orders get back. So it's interesting to see some of the solutions within that space. Let's get back into logistics once again. We know that logistics challenges vary, across the different markets, but we also see that certain product categories generate higher sales revenues than others, as shown in the next chart that we'll be seeing now. For instance, fashion and electronic products create the highest sales revenues among online shoppers in African markets, with fashion products expected to reach $13.4 billion and electronics 11.2 billion in annual sales by 2025. So Ruth, I'll come to you. Could you focus perhaps on one of the product categories shown in the chart and share with us some of the latest trends that you see within it? For example, any trends in fashion or furniture?
Yes, for sure. And I think I'll speak more on textile and apparel because it's one of the interesting experiences that we've had. And I guess one of the challenges we found or we interacted with was the fact that sometimes the fashion item, the value of it is not as high as you want it to be. And therefore, the seller is always, and the buyer is always grappling between the cost of the fashion item versus the cost of shipping it or moving it. And so what the seller is always intent on, and obviously the final customer, is to make sure that they work on minimizing the cost of freight so that they can, fetch enough for the cost of the product. So some of the, trends we've seen, and I'll talk about both an international, movement and also a local one, is we found that customers prefer, the service that takes a slightly longer time, but then saves them on the cost. So then that way it makes sense. So what I've observed is the seller will try and fulfill or prepare the item early so that the customer on the other end still gets it on time, or the customer orders it early. And so they have the luxury, let me say, of time to be able to wait for it a little longer, say a week, and then, at the end of the day, pay less. Now, when I talk about local thing in the fashion industry or in textile, and actually not just textile, but any item that you don't pay too much for. So it could be a shoe, or it could be a piece of clothing, or even an electronic. So what I've observed, because I've done it myself, is I will go online and I will look for all the items that I want, little items that I want, but I will ask the seller to keep my items or my whatever I've bought until a time when I feel like I've reached the place where it makes sense for me to get that item. So good example, say your shoes are 200 bob or sandals, and it costs say 100 or 200 to get to your location or where you live. It makes more sense to wait for any other item that you probably feel you like, that you need or want. And when it gets to say 1,000 bob or so, then it makes sense to move the item and pay the 200 shillings, because then the cost of freight becomes comes lower compared to the final product. So those are just some of the trends that I've observed both locally with customers and also my own experience. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. As we come to the close of the panel, and I'll have one question to Adriano, and then I'll quickly take a final round of comments from all the panelists, maybe a key takeout, something that our audience should be thinking about. And that will be like a very quick one. So Adriano, I'll come to you just for the main final question about B2B e-commerce, and especially because there's an interesting statistic from the region that you work in, and that's the Middle East and of course Africa. According to Straits Research, the Middle East and Africa B2B e-commerce market was valued at $472 billion in 2021 and is projected to reach 2.2 trillion USD by 2030. With a compounded growth of 19% over the forecast period, and that's 2022 to 2030. And you can see some of those figures on the screen. Now, regarding B2B e-commerce, Adriano, could you share with us some of the key trends that you see in the sector? Given the significant market size, it's definitely certainly worth learning something about.
And again, just for us, everyone being the same, we have B2C, which is business to consumer. When we sell directly to consumer, we have B2B, which is business to business, is brand by brand. So I will take your point, and because it's very important. Business to business is like if I want to do business with your company, right? So we are doing a B2B. And we have the B2B2C, because someone is selling my product to the end consumer. And you have a D2C, direct to consumer. So now we see traditional brands trying to sell directly to consumer. I have a brand that they sell bananas. So they used to sell bananas to retailers. And from the retailers, and they said, why we don't sell directly to consumer? And I said, well, and they create a logo of the banana brand with a monkey, so funny. And they started to sell bananas directly to consumer. And now they have kiosks everywhere. So B2B is an amazing market, an amazing opportunity, because I think we are bringing back what you said about brand. We are losing the branding side. It's like, today we are going to buy a computer. Everything is getting commoditized. It's like we are almost buying per kilo. I said, sometimes people are comparing my platform with the other ones and they don't even know. So I think B2B brings the brand essence. And I will go a little bit further, is the intellectual property. Intellectual property. Intellectual property is like the value of your brand. I was talking with artisans. I was born in Brazil, a poor country. We were growing, and I went to Mexico, the same. So we were facing this that we are facing Kenya 10 years, 15 years ago. So that's why the opportunity is right now, because you have a young generation. If we see Europe, they are in the other challenge right now. But I was with those artisans, and they were saying, oh, now we have our products from entrepreneurs selling those marketplaces, global marketplaces. And we are missing the local brands, the local culture. So there is much more value behind the brands, because I'm trying to take this message in the countries that I have the opportunity. Hopefully, I can come back here again. It's much closer now. But the brand value is very important, the culture. Because if we start, when I say, you buy in a marketplace, right? Any marketplace. In Brazil, there is a big marketplace that tried to enter in Brazil, and the brands like yours, the local artisans, the local retailers, the local entrepreneurs, they digitalize it. They created their own e-commerce. That's what we are trying to bring here. Create your own e-commerce, and you can sell in the different marketplaces. But don't miss the value of your brand, because when you buy in a marketplace, where this product is being produced? That's the key question. So in Brazil, you said, this brand, those marketplaces, they can go to the moon, but they will never come to Brazil, because we want products produced in Brazil with products delivered by Brazilian. So I think the brand value can give and bring a lot of this essence, instead of buying marketplace products that the jobs are going to in other countries. How can we bring the jobs and the value back to your country?
Great. Thank you, Adriano. Very quick final comments from our panel. Perhaps a key takeaway or something our audience can think of as we continue with our day.
I think e-commerce is probably one of the best gifts we have had as the world. And I will say, especially to any startups, especially to any new businesses and any current business that's, trying to interact with their market, it's an amazing platform for us to engage with. And let me just specifically speak to any startups, anyone who's, beginning or starting an SME. I think one of the amazing trends I have seen is video selling. Just the way the people are able to connect with the customers, allow them to interact with the brands. I mean, there's now chatbots where you can ask questions, get immediate answers. You can ask about experiences, you can get reviews, and therefore there's lots of benefits to the product makers, the business side of the person selling, but there's also immense benefits to the consumers. Yeah, the items are probably not as highly costed as they would have been before. They're probably more affordable to more people. And I just want to say, it's been a great experience. And thank you to all that came.
All right. Thank you, Ruth. John?
Maybe my last comments would be, if you're building a platform, please think mobile first. A few statistics that will be coming through to us. Africa is going to have 1.7 billion people by 2030. It will be 87% penetrated on smartphone. That is the market you want to be. So everything you build has got to be mobile first. Have payments as underlying. Ruth talked about convenience, have payments as an underlying factor. Whether it's mobile money, as card payments, and digital wallets. Those are the three main payment forms that you'll find. Please have that built from the word go. I think then the rest will be, it will be an easier journey to go. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Adriano?
I just want to say we had a very good case here in Africa, is Bash. Bash is part of Machine Group. We launched the super app, mobile first. It's a global case now to the world. They have own 26 brands. We increased conversion 200%. So it's a very amazing case from Africa to the world that we are presenting with Bash. And I'm sure we will find other cases here in Kenya and the North of Africa countries. So just take the step, educate yourselves, count on us, create the ecosystem, and let's go together to make Africa, the jobs, the revenue, the growth you deserve. So count on us, and thanks. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Let's appreciate our panelists, Ruth, John, and Adriano, for some great insights. I'm sure you're still staying with us, so if anyone in the audience has some questions, they can still come to you at tea time or so. So thank you so much. Let's appreciate them one more time. All right, and we will, as just before we take our seats, I'd like to ask that our next panelists prepare to come upstage. The next session will be on the AI advantage, harnessing artificial intelligence for smarter e-commerce strategies. This session will be moderated by Michael Poor. So as we usher our guests off the stage, I'd like to request Michael, please prepare to come up on stage. You will be taking us through the next session, and thereafter we will take a quick tea break. All right, asante sana, and we'll see you back in the audience. All right, just before Michael starts, a very quick reminder. The voting is going It's, later this evening. Voting is on until 1 o'clock. Remember, it's on the same platform where the event is on, and that will close at 1 o'clock. So please vote. Go into the platform. You all have access to it. And at 1 o'clock, voting will be closed. Michael.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry-Ann. Can you hear me? Fantastic. Well, welcome, everybody. This is my second year here for our e-commerce day Africa. The audience has certainly grown, which is fantastic. I've seen some familiar faces already, and we have a full day of insightful sessions and activities. So very exciting. And if I could ask, we give a round of applause for the E-commerce Institute for putting this event on again this year. It's as you can imagine with these events, it's an incredible amount of work. So the team has been working very hard for several months now to make this successful. So for those who don't know me, my name is Michael Poor. I am with NextTrade Group. NextTrade is one of the implementing partners on the E-Trade Alliance that you see here on the board. E-Trade Alliance has put on this event in partnership with the E-commerce Institute, USAID, and of course our other implementing partner, Palladium, who's also here in the room today. So again, very excited to be back. I come to Kenya frequently for our work under the E-Trade Alliance. This session is what I would consider a very exciting, dynamic session on AI, as you can see with how Marcos opened us up. So we're going to dig into that a little bit, but focus will be on how is AI impacting e-commerce and how can AI be leveraged for e-commerce. And I think Marcos's presentation is a great example. Can you imagine using that for customer service and for selling across borders all over the world? So what I'd like to do now is welcome our panelists, and we'll get right into the conversation. So Michael Marungi and Sandeep Chagar, please come to the stage. If I can advance the slide here. Okay, so, well, actually, before we get into the data, why don't I allow the panelists to make a quick intro on themselves and their respective companies?
Thank you, Michael. Firstly, it's great to see audience in good numbers, which gives us some sort of encouragement that yes, East Africa and Africa is a great market and e-commerce is on a growth trajectory. My name is Sandeep Chaggar. I'm the Group Chief Operating Officer at Peach Payments. We are a digital payments company operating in South Africa. Now we are deepening our presence in Kenya. We have presence in Mauritius, expanding into a few more African countries. But yes, what we do for bread and butter is we live payments.
Thank you very much. Really pleased to be here, and congratulations to Ecommerce and all the organizers for this great event. My name is Michael Muronge. I work with Google here in Kenya in government affairs and public policy for Eastern Africa. Google is a technology company that is headquartered in the US, in San Francisco, and doing business in many parts of the world, including Kenya. And we are an AI first company. Let me just stop there. Thanks.
Great, thank you both. Can we still hear me? Okay. Okay, so let me just put up a graphic here that shows the projected growth of AI in e-commerce. So as you can see, it's going up exponentially. And in terms of the figure, it's roughly 45% annual growth rate, reaching a forecasted 22.6 billion by 2032. So again, just underscoring how critical AI will be in the e-commerce space. So given that information, over to our panelists here, what would you say are the main applications of AI in e-commerce, and which applications specifically do you see having the most significant impact? You have your mic.
Well, definitely, we process payments for some 2,500 companies across Africa, especially in the markets that we are present in. And it's very interesting to see the adoption of e-commerce, right? Not only in Africa, but globally, right? And $22 billion. I mean, that's massive numbers. If you look at from a consumer perspective, right? I mean, we want to see personalized services, whether we are buying online or in a physical store. I was reading some stats, and Amazon, it states that 35% of its sales happen through personalization, right? I mean, when you go to a site, you get to see the products that you were really looking for. I mean, I'm sure there would be search algorithms working in the back end. Google's doing a great job, right? And it's integrated into wherever, we want to perform our work. So yes, we're seeing massive impacts from a personalization perspective. The other thing that we also try to solve internally is customer service and customer experience, right? We've got a massive operations team of around 50 plus people, who are servicing our customers day and night. And, we also tend to think in terms of how we can best, solve through artificial intelligence. Again, I mean, when we were looking at, when we were doing research, we launched 24/7 support some 2 months back, because we realized that a lot of online transactions happen just before you're going to sleep, right? And consumers are buying fashion products late at night. Alibaba, mentioned, I mean, this is what we found when we were doing the research, that Alibaba states that 95% of their customer queries happen through artificial intelligence-based chatbots, whether it's voice enabled or whether it's text enabled. Now, logistics is a key sector, which is linked to e-commerce in a big way. And we process payments for some of the large logistics companies. I visited one of their warehouses, and it's interesting the application of artificial intelligence. Again, an interesting stat. What the global stat is that artificial intelligence in the logistics sector is improving efficiencies by 65%. And if you look at overall e-commerce, I mean, these are globally available statistics. Businesses are seeing a 15% increase in revenue and an 8% improvement in operational efficiencies. right? And the other thing is conversational commerce. You know, we are seeing massive number of transactions going through conversational commerce. We saw an organization which is one of the sponsors is Chapter, which is mentioning about WhatsApp commerce. Now 200 million WhatsApp users, right? How do we leverage them? We partnered with a company which is Kenya-based called Sukiba. You know, we are helping them expand into South Africa, which is one of our core markets. And the response and acceptance is phenomenal, right? I mean, you're chatting on WhatsApp, artificial intelligence is embedded into it, product recommendations are happening, you're building an entire cart, and you're checking out while you're sitting in WhatsApp. I mean, we are glad we're doing the payments, but you know, we see that as a massive growth opportunity, right? And so all in all, I mean, there are endless case studies, right? I mean, supply chain, inventory management, outstocking, you know, I mean, stock estimation, you know, that we can do. I mean, Amazon Fresh uses artificial intelligence to check, you know, the longevity or, you know, the timelines of their perishable items so that they can do demand generation. So, I mean, there are so many different areas of you know, I would call these areas of growth using artificial intelligence, and some of the leading organizations in the world are actually using it. And all in all, I mean, this is the impact that we are seeing in these 5 areas predominantly.
Thanks. And I just want to underscore a stat that I was going to show later, but Sandeep got to it. Is that indeed correct that Amazon's recommendation engine drives roughly 30% of its revenue? So pretty remarkable. Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much. In fact, I think Sandeep has touched on the key use cases, which in my experience and in the experience of Google and the conversations and engagements we've been having with SMBs, he's talked about personalized customer experiences, search and discovery, and also inventory and supply chain. So instead of repeating those, I think I'll just give one good example of an organization that Google has worked with recently. Jacaranda Health is a medical nonprofit. You could say it's a social impact organization. And what they have been doing is supporting expecting moms to receive personalized information about their pregnancy in a way that helps them to own their pregnancy journeys. And if you imagine probably going to a hospital as an expecting mom, it's a government hospital, you're probably living in the village and you don't have a smartphone. And the time that you report to the hospital, you get registered onto an SMS-based system that is able to track, based on your expected date of delivery, the milestones along the way of your pregnancy, and give you personalized information about any complications you may be receiving. It's interactive. You may send an SMS and say, I'm experiencing headaches for the last 5 days. What does that mean? More interestingly, actually, Jacaranda shared with us that one of the most common questions that they receive there is, are avocados good for me when I'm pregnant? I don't know why. I think it's, maybe the ladies can tell us. I'll also ask my wife. But yeah, they are good, by the way, in case you're wondering. They are good for you. And it gives you personalized responses. Not only is it able to query large language model on health to give highly accurate answers, it's also able to respond to you and give you answers in Sheng. Sheng is a mix of English and Swahili that is commonly used by many Kenyans. And more recently now, with advances in language, large language models, and improving support for African languages, more indigenous languages with AI, we're even seeing the ability to query in Swahili, and in soon probably we'll also be able to use it in vernacular like local languages like Luo. So I think that for me is one of the most glaring examples of how AI is transforming the customer experience, and how, as an SMB, you can take advantage of the AI and these developments to enrich your engagements with your customers and give them a more personalized and meaningful engagement with your service and product. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Michael. So just to summarize what both of you have said, so impact of AI on e-commerce, customer experience, the use of chat bots and virtual assistants. I think this is particularly helpful for small businesses, so you don't have to hire an army or a team of customer service representatives. You can use one application to do so. Supply chain optimization, dynamic pricing, demand forecasting, all metrics that AI can analyze and make recommendations on, which ultimately leads to greater revenue and higher profits. So, and then the other would be the content generation and marketing, that AI can produce personalized ads, content creation, and targeted marketing. So really can be used to augment your business online, and is a particularly valuable tool for small businesses. So on that, as I think I mentioned, but the E-Trade Alliance is corely focused on helping small businesses sell online, giving them market access, opportunities for revenue growth, and on the whole, economic growth across country, region, or locale. My next question for you both, in that context, is what are the first steps that small businesses can take? And I imagine many of members in the audience today are small businesses. What are the first steps that they can take to start utilizing AI? And either one of you.
No, definitely. I mean, we see SME as a growth sector because these are your enterprises of tomorrow, and it's in the SME space, it's ease of doing business, right? I mean, what is the cost of getting started? In the last decade plus, we've seen these platforms come in: Shopify, Wix, WooCommerce, Magento, so on and so forth, right? I mean, they've made it easy. You don't have to develop a website. I mean, you go, it's plug and play. You get started, right? I mean, when you're starting up, right? I mean, I would look at the smaller organizations. When you're starting up, you're cash strapped, right? I mean, you're looking for. I mean, the founder is doing almost everything, right? I mean, the pitch has grown a lot. I mean, we've also seen similar sort of a scenario, right? I mean, with us as well as some of the companies that we are working with. I mean, most of your marketing can happen with artificial intelligence. When I say marketing, it's content creation, or if you want to create a design, graphic design can happen on artificial intelligence. There's coding, that you can use artificial intelligence for. So your reliance on that initial resource base is substantially reduced, and your ease of getting started, I mean, there's more ease in terms of getting started for a smaller enterprise, right? So a lot of the redundant tasks, I mean, they can just let go of and use artificial intelligence for that, right? A lot of customer query can be, I mean, you have plug and play chatbot solutions, that you can feed in some amount of data with adequate machine learning, supervised or unsupervised, can be utilized, and your customer service can be taken care of to a great degree, especially when you're starting up, when you're a small organization. I mean, in your question, you rightly said, Michael, that you reduce the number of initial hires, that you could possibly not afford, but you're trying to, cater for them in some way or the other. So definitely, with AI, the growth opportunity for startups will be a lot more.
Thanks. I think to that, I'll add first, if I was an SMB and I'm thinking of scaling my business with AI, I think there's a lot of information flying around and misinformation as well about AI and its opportunity and the potential. And it's important to cut through all that and, get clarity. So I think the first thing I would recommend is do an AI course on e-commerce. Very essential. I think we take it for granted that, I can read this chapter here and I can, go into a generative AI tool and ask it, how do I supercharge my business using AI? And I get the answer and I'm all set. No, please, just dedicate some time and get into a curated course. Pay if you have to pay for it. It's good investment. get into a well-curated course on AI. As it may turn out, by the way, AI is not a thing for you, honestly. It could be that your job is just, to take cattle to the deep every morning and then go to sleep. You don't need AI, other than just reading and finding out what's going on. So find out, because you may make an investment, and I'm not a business person, but I believe I'm talking to people who would agree with what I'm saying. To avoid this thing of AI fatigue and the AI bust, it's important to actually be very, very deliberate about learning what AI is and what it is not for your business. I think that's the first thing. So for Google, we have training that we do. It's called Google Hustle Academy, that we train SMBs. And Google Hustle Academy has pivoted to AI. It's actually how you can supercharge your business with AI. I see Nelly here from Upskill Digital. Nelly, raise your hand. Upskill Digital are our partner in training SMBs. And so it's focused on, first of all, understanding AI, and then boosting your sales, and then amplifying through marketing. So very important, first of all, to understand and do the SWOT analysis for your business. What business am I in? What pain points am I experiencing? Is AI going to be the answer to these pain points? And secondly, what's my path to market or path to growing my customer base and expanding my business and growing my impact as whether it's social impact? And finally, how do I use these tools for AI to market and grow? And it's great what has been said, and I know Chapter is coming next, and Uber, and I think they'll give better experiences than me on how conversational commerce is growing. So I think, first of all, education, and then investing in knowledge and applying those tools, having a very clear understanding of your business and what it means and what impact you're seeking to drive in the market. Thanks.
If I can just add a personal experience. So Peach Payments is on the Google ecosystem, right? And the last few months we've been using Gemini, right? And what a lifesaver it is, right? I mean, in terms of their long email threads that can be summarized, I mean, it saved so much time for me. There are contracts, I mean, I could see when is this contract, what are the terms, even advising in terms of what term we should have negotiated. I think that's a great practical example for a lot of SMEs. I mean, and a lot of us, are on the Google ecosystem, right? And Gemini is just a lifesaver from personal efficiency perspective.
Great. Thank you both. So again, if I could summarize some of the comments made, and I should note too, we NextTrade as a small business are also using AI. Another part of our business is research and advisory work. And for context, we're not using ChatGPT for research per se, but to put together program proposals, budgets, that sort of thing. AI has been a tremendous tool, something that would take me 3 to 4 hours, I can do in a matter of 45 minutes. So I think, in summarizing what you both have said, if I were to put together a roadmap as a small business, how to use AI, there are a couple of steps that I would take. And first is identify your business needs. Really, where could AI be helpful? If it's customer service and you don't have the cash on hand to hire 10 people, then it's worth investing in an AI chatbot, something like that. Starting with affordable tools. So and sort of assessing the costs and the benefits. So not finding an AI tool and spending half your budget on it, but making incremental gains with AI. Absolutely, of course, leveraging AI where you can for data insights, automating routine tasks, investing in AI training and resources. So as Michael alluded to, there's the Google Hustle Academy, which is part of the E-Trade Alliance as well. Anytime you're deploying a new technology or adopting a new technology, absolutely critical that you know how to use it and use it effectively. So training is critical. Experimenting with AI on low risk projects or programs. So not putting everything into AI for a project or a program or a product that if it fails, you're out of business. So again, these sort of incremental gains. Use established partners. So some of the more traditional or existing AI platforms versus maybe your friend down the street who's got a platform, although his platform may be good at some point. Focusing ultimately on ROI. So that was sort of the cost benefit analysis that I was mentioning. What's the return on the the AI that you're getting? And then lastly, staying updated on AI advancements and where it's use cases and scale gradually. So that's just some tips I would recommend for the audience and the small businesses. One thing I want to highlight is the gains in productivity from AI. And so it should be a graph here. Let's see if I can get the clicker to move. Nextrade is a research and advisory company. We recently did a study on AI impact on small businesses. And so we pulled around 1,000 SMEs across the continent to get their input on how much they're deploying AI and what sort of benefits they're receiving or seeing from it. And what we found was over 50% of them that were investing at least 2% of their revenue in some form of AI application were seeing tangible gains in productivity. So really, real world evidence to us that AI has valuable application, particularly in productivity. And that's what we're seeing from reporting from some small businesses. So just back to you both. How do you think that individuals working in the e-commerce sector can leverage AI specifically for productivity? And I think we covered some of that in your prior comments, but if we could just drill down on the productivity element.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I mentioned Gemini has been a great tool. From an individual perspective, I feel a lot of the content that you create in constant communication, business day-to-day communication, it's AI has made it so effective. I mean, I've not used it actively, but tools like Grammarly, even Gemini, can help draft better emails, right? I mean, better content. I remember like we were recently drafting a purpose statement, for a bit of a brainstorming session that we were doing, for one of the divisions of the business. Josh, our head of marketing, is here. Right. So we saw what are the 3 keywords. And it's like, okay, let ChatGPT do the rest and design a purpose statement. Let's move on to the action items. And I was like, wow, I mean, a lot of that, I mean, let the mind do more strategic and action oriented things, and where you have to draft flowery statements, let ChatGPT do, and it did a great job, right? I mean, it covered all aspects and created a fantastic sentence, which we are using as a purpose statement, for that division of the business. I mean, just as a perfect example, and this was last week. A lot of research, right? I mean, there's an app that I use called Perplexity. I mean, you can just go on it and research on any topic. It's a great soundboarding tool, right? Even from a business decision perspective, I mean, this is what I do on a personal level. I ask those questions and I ask the multiple whys and I get an answer to everything. And this is backed with so much of data, and so much of modeling that I get concise information, right? And I mean, at least I'm using it for a lot of business decision making. From individual to SMEs, we've discussed what small and medium enterprises can use AI and chatbots, for efficiencies. Another great example that I saw for a larger organization, I mean, Zara uses AI for trend analysis on social media to see what is the upcoming trend. You know, that's a much broader adoption. But yes, I mean, today, if we look at from an individual to a small startup to a medium organization to a large enterprise, every step you've built a use case and you're using artificial intelligence for your own productivity. And so we are at our organization as well.
Thank you. I think I work mostly in public policy and government affairs. So I'm so happy that I'm sitting on this panel with Sandeep because he's more market oriented. And one of the things that we also look at, because Michael asked the question on what kind of use cases for AI are good for incorporating into our daily routine to make us more productive. And if you don't mind, Michael, I'd like to answer it in the reverse, like, what kind of tasks do we think that we should not delegate to AI? So if I may answer it in the reverse, and some of the answer may be in what also Sandeep has said. I think the models, for example, large language model, is in guessing the answer based on all the words in the dictionary having been fed into them and conversations human beings having been fed into them. So if human beings have said 1 + 1 is 2, so if you ask the model 1 + 1, naturally it will just, in a micro millisecond, say by the law of averages, based on the database I'm querying, I see that most of the conversations in my database have said that the answer to that question is 2. So I think the limit then, Michael, it means that AI models are not capable of giving an answer that is not within the human realm of data, of what we fed it. And I want to say this because I want to touch on creativity. I think if something involves creative problem solving, it may not be a task for AI. It may be supported by AI, as Sandeep has said, but AI will not be the source of creativity and originality. It's only good at repeating what has gone before. So as human beings, I think we should always keep challenging ourselves. There's a saying that Star Trek, go where, what do they say, Michael? Go where no human, whatever. What I'm trying to say is, let's think of where has human thought never gone before? Because AI is only capable of giving us regurgitated answers based on what we fed it. So if we are looking for something new, something that has never been imagined, we should not even look to AI. In fact, we should ask ourselves, who invented AI? It is human intelligence, right? So let's not think that AI is the last thing, and therefore let's know that the next realm of innovation is open. And then the other thing I would not leave to AI is in the moment, heat of the moment decision making. I don't know how I extrapolate to SMBs, but if I may give a soccer, not football, Michael, I know you're American, soccer analogy, if I am a football player and I'm about to receive the ball and I'm supposed to connect with the ball and hit it so it hits the net, there's a sense in which all of my previous experience in training collapses into one moment of being present, and I become one with the ball and I hit it, it goes into the net. It doesn't, even if I am fed with all the wearable AI tech in the world that exists right now, there is no equivalence to that. Making a decision in the heat of the moment based on information that is happening in the court, in the game of life, in the playing field. AI is based on analyzing, it's just that it does it very fast and therefore gives a response that is instantaneous. It looks like it's thinking like a human, but there's no equivalent. So if we have to engage with a customer and respond to the customer in the heat of the moment and make a decision that is not based on what previous customers have experienced, And if you want, and we're talking about personalizing. So even if we are saying, let's personalize the customer experience using AI, remember there's a limit. AI is only able to give that customer an experience that is regurgitated. So if you really want to make your customers delighted, always think, how can I delight them beyond what has been done before? I think that's the most I can say. It's a bit on the philosophical side, but I'm sorry.
Thank you, Michael. It's a good analogy. And I think we can use ChatGPT to look up that quote you were looking for. Gemini, sorry, yes. So that was a good segue, though, as you can see here on the screen. So there's definitely many use case applications for AI, and many of those use cases will take over, existing tasks or responsibilities that people are doing. But I think what's important to emphasize is the creativity side of things. I mean, I don't believe at this time that AI can supplant human creativity. When it comes to various, tasks on the job, I think what will be critical is that those tasks will become automated and manageable by AI, and therefore that, the individual running those tasks, will not be needed. What will be needed, though, is the individual who can manage how to apply AI to those tasks. So it'll simply transform the role of those individuals, and that's why the skilling and training element is absolutely critical. So those who know how to use AI will advance, while those of us that remain sort of doing the same skills and same processes will stay where we are and ultimately be left behind. So I think that was a good segue in terms of where AI is with the changing the workforce and how it competes with human activities. So next is just we had gotten into a little bit already, was just use cases that I wanted to share on AI that's being used in the e-commerce space right now. If I can get the graphic to advance. So as Sandeep rightfully noted, Amazon is offering, tailored recommendations. Most e-commerce platforms, I think, offer those recommendations. The list of products tend to go right to those recommendations and buy accordingly. It definitely impact on me and my purchasing. Stat of the data was really interesting to see is that Amazon's recommendation engine derives 35% of its revenue. So that's pretty significant. And then in terms of Sephora, which you see here on the right side of the slide, the makeup company. So Sephora has started using a visual artist tool, which is powered by augmented reality, AI-empowered augmented reality. Allows customers to try on makeup virtually, and make the shopping experience interactive and personalized. And one thought I had in terms of the prior panel in the omni-commerce experience, it will be very interesting to see how AI impacts that omni-commerce experience, such that as much as the AI can deliver an in-shop, in-person customer experience, you actually won't have to go into stores anymore. So that will be very interesting to see how that evolves. I don't know if you guys have any interesting use cases that you're seeing with AI, any success stories like this?
Well, I'm seeing a use case at my home. Like, I live in Mauritius. We just shifted into a new apartment, and my wife has gotten addicted to Temu, which is a Chinese retailer, thankfully delivering to Mauritius as well. And every time she comes to me and says, how did Temu know that I wanted to buy this table mat? Or how did Temu know that I needed this bookshelf, right? Because it's seeing patterns that, you're searching for home furnishing items. You searched for one, you bought one, you searched for the other one, you bought two. So let's say if you bought, okay, you cannot buy a dining table, but if you got some dining product, it'll show you the next product, right? And that's a fantastic example of personalization, right? And that's what Amazon is doing, which is generating 35% to its revenue. In South Africa, we also process payments for Temu, and hence, it's an apt example. apt example of personalization. You know, there are some smaller companies as well that we know of amongst our merchant base. We process payments for 2,500 companies. So there's a company called Lelive, which is using chatbots. So that chatbot is their support team, right? Everything is happening through AI, right? And the North Star, of course, is Alibaba, where 95% of this customer queries are handled by artificial intelligence. The other organization that we have partnered with, which is I mentioned before, the Kenyan-based startup called Sukiba. And you know, we were having a conversation yesterday. We had a former head of Jumia Pay. We had the Sukiba team, and you know, they were saying that I mean, this is anecdotal, and they were saying that customer behavior, what they're seeing in Kenya, they trust WhatsApp more than a mobile app, right? And they're more comfortable to make a payment on a WhatsApp within the app in WhatsApp. I mean, we are happy that we are powering those payments. But you know, the customer feels more at ease, maybe because it says it's end-to-end encrypted, but that is in the psyche of the customer that, okay, fair enough, I can transact on WhatsApp. And we are seeing great adoption in Kenya, and now, you know, they're expanding into South Africa. But the market is receptive. The merchants are receptive. They want to try this new channel of WhatsApp. They know, I mean, most of the consumer base in the country is using WhatsApp. Well, 200 million users across, or rather 2 billion users across the world, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, between the two, we can check on ChatGPT. But that's a massive user base, right? And these are three concrete examples, you know, that we can talk of because they are in our realm and we are processing payments for them. The other thing is, you know, I mean, as the payments processor for 2,500 companies within Africa, right? I mean, we have to constantly think of efficiencies. In any month, we get around 1,000 leads, right? And we are activating anywhere between 150 to 200 leads, you know, who are joining us as merchants in the markets that we are operating in. Now, the amount of work that is done in the back end, you know, from an onboarding or underwriting perspective, you know, now our head of product, Ernst, is sitting here, our group head of product. And you know, he's been working along with Sajad, our product manager, and they've been working on automating our know your business process, you know, where you feed in all the information and it validates that yes, and verifies that particular organization. And at least it's one step less. I mean, previously we had 14-member onboarding team, which is reviewing every application, a 5-member risk team, which is again reviewing every application. At least we've given them some degree of efficiency. Now we are putting up a transaction monitoring system. The technology that we use, you know, we've got 120 algorithms where you can detect potential fraud, right? I mean, this is not generative AI, this is basic artificial intelligence, but still, at least we can prevent fraud in some way or the other. Our merchants know that they are secure with us, you know, when they're processing payments. So we are constantly thinking in terms of how we can increase our efficiencies, internal efficiencies, as well as customer-facing efficiencies, whether it's through chatbot automation or whether it's applying, you know, or implementing certain tools, you know, which are using the industry best practices and that help us achieve those internal efficiencies. And as you know, I mean, as AI is coming into play, as you know, new businesses are coming into play, e-commerce is on the forefront of growth, and we have to be ready for this massive scale that's going to happen. And it's not possible without automation, without artificial intelligence, or without some degree of machine learning. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll be brief. Actually, so one of the use cases I gave was Jacaranda Health, and tying to the previous conversation about making humans more efficient. I think probably the question I left in your minds was, what's going to happen to doctors if the expecting mom can rely on the SMS-based system to decide whether they're okay or not. And the thing is that system actually has resulted in better patient and doctor interactions because it prompts the mom by triaging her interactively and telling her this is actually a problematic case, you need to see a doctor. And they've seen that actually moms are now more informed about their decisions on escalating a case to a doctor. And when they visit the doctor is able to see the history, the conversational history on a dashboard about what the problem has been with the aid of AI, and being able to make, and that helps to make better his diagnosis. But at Google, we've actually been running an accelerator for startups for a long time. And last year, we even started our first AI-focused startups. AI-focused accelerator for startups. In fact, if Hilda Mora is here from Pesesha, is Hilda here? I think I saw on the program. Pesesha, we are very proud to be associated with her work because we've been collaborating and supporting Hilda's work. But we've seen, for example, right now, one of the startups we have is Nakili. Nakili is working on streamlined management and enhanced customer experience for barber shops and salons. And barber shops and salons are like the everyday SMB on the Kenyan landscape. And you can imagine now we have someone actually who is innovating on AI on how to support them using AI-driven business tools to manage barber shops and salons. We have Notebook Africa that has the same for Chamas. Chamas, Michael, are self-help groups. You know, like you, me. No, actually, it's not me and me. It's mostly my wife and your wife. They get on a team and they get other ladies in the neighborhood and they start saving money. And it's like a merry-go-round. They share the money among themselves. I'm not doing justice to all of that, but it's a self-help group that is really common among women. And we have a number of SMBs, including Notebook Africa, that is innovating on supporting chamas with AI-powered tools. Pipli Leatherworks, Milka Odhiambo, is one of the SMBs that also been really powering the business using AI. Is a graduate of Google Hustle Academy, started selling crafted, personalized leather artifacts to customers in walk-ins, but moved online, started selling using e-commerce, incorporated AI-powered marketing and customer experience tools, and now the business is booming. So yeah, I think we have every use case and every type of business represented.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we have just a few minutes left in the panel. And what I wanted to do is open up to the audience for any questions. And please, specifically, ideally from small businesses, if you have a question on how you can use AI, any one of us can address. So just if you have a question, please raise your hand. We're happy to answer as best we can. And if not, you can ask ChatGPT or Gemini. So no hands. That's fine. Oh, do we have one? Oh, okay. Can we? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leah Koth. I'm a journalist and a graphic designer. And AI has proven, once we add as graphic designer, we were very afraid of using ChatGPT because we thought that it was going to take our role. And the fact that two of you have come here to assure us that that is not the case, and it's here to help us. I'm just here to just say thank you so much because a lot of us don't have an understanding of how they can grow their businesses. And seeing you have come here to educate us and show us various examples of businesses that are actually working is a great example. So thank you so much.
ChatGPT is great. Also try Google Gemini. We love competition.
Thank you. My name is Butichi. One thing that I wanted, maybe you give us some solution, is to fashion. You find that most of the ladies here, they will never fit in any attire that is bought online. They'll either to adjust it somehow. So I'm just thinking globally, widely, can we have a solution using AI? For example, a lady can, or even a man can take a picture, post it on some app, and then it gives the exact clothing. Instead of buying, then you come and adjust because people have different shapes. what we have in Africa as large might not necessarily be large in China or in America. So can we have an app whereby if a lady or even a man is ordering, for example, a cloth, you just take your picture, post it, and then it will fit you the cloth, so that you don't have to buy and then also incur costs in adjusting.
I think it's more of a comment or an opportunity. Well, definitely, even I'm at times reluctant to buy clothes online because you order a large size, but every large size is not the same, right? And but yes, I mean that's a great problem statement, and I'm sure I don't have. I mean, I would love to know of these concrete examples in terms of whether organizations are doing. You take your photograph, select this dress, and it comes, and then you see whether it's fitting or not, how it looks on you. But there's an interesting organization in India called Lenskart, right? I mean, which did this for eyewear, right? I mean, you take your photograph, you try to fit in that face shape, and it takes a photograph, then you select which eyewear, and then you try it virtually. So I'm sure a lot of organizations across the world are experimenting, and we're not far from the time. And especially in the fashion space or accessory space, we're not far from the time where we will see this innovation coming in and having standardized off the shelf solutions that retailers can use, plug and play, and implement artificial intelligence in that form. But yes, it's a great opportunity that will scale up the fashion e-commerce space.
Yeah, thank you for taking my challenge to take human thought where human thought has not gone before. In fact, I would even challenge us in this room. Well, if that business ends up online somewhere, I hope you don't blame yourself for sharing the idea with all these creative people here. The other one I've also been wondering about is when I'm buying a cologne or a perfume, I'd like to know how it smells like, right? Why do I have to go to the shop to smell it? So please, people, ideas.
Wow, I think Michael just presented the biggest challenge to AI in fashion. I hadn't even thought of that, because certainly with just to echo everyone's comments, it's a great question. And with the Sephora here on the slide, is that cameras now can capture enough of an image of you, send it through the system, and provide the recommendations through AI on a certain fit. I can certainly attest. Back in the US, if I order shoes, I order like 4 of them in different sizes, depending on what size might fit, because it's not universal. Fortunately, half the time Amazon has a free return policy, so I can just send them back and keep ordering them. But that's not always the case, and I end up eating the return fee, the shipping return, or the new shipping coming in. So it's at the same time, I live far from a shopping area, so I'm kind of conflicted. Do I spend the money on gas and time to drive into a shoe store or order online? So I think, and that gets to my comments earlier about the the omni-channel experience. I think as the technology continues to evolve, I think the shopping experience will come closer and closer to your home, and there'll be less of a need to go into a store. I have no idea how it will address colognes and scents and things like that, but it's a really interesting question. Any other? Got a few. But where's the microphone? So just keep your hand up so we can get the microphone to you. I think we'll take 1 or 2 more. We're just about at time.
Thank you, everyone. My question is to Michael. Michael, I know you work a lot in government affairs and public policy. We've talked a lot about AI, but we also heard that there's a big gap between people that have access to digital technologies in Kenya and people living in rural areas that haven't yet adopted all of these technologies. What are you as Google in Kenya doing to kind of ensure that we don't make this digital divide even wider, and how are you bridging the gap? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, that's kind of question reminds me of my typical day in my life in government affairs. Very important. We we've had the digital divide, and now with the risk of AI, because AI rides on the technology that has gone there before, there's a risk that AI will exacerbate the divide. So one of the things that we are doing, first of all, we know that ultimately it is the government that holds the responsibility of making sure that every human has equitable access to the benefits of technology. So we are working with government through agencies like the American Chamber of Commerce, of which we are a member, and the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, to shape government policy to make sure that the benefits of technology are equal and realized for everyone. That could mean making sure that the fund for, what is it called? The fund that CEF for access to, for everyone. There's a fund that is established to make sure that underserved areas are reached by technology, managed by the Communications Authority. It is well applied. Making sure, for example, our technologists, for example, Google is a company that prides itself in providing most of our tools and services for free, and then we charge you for the premium. Whether you are the king or queen of England or a farmer in rural Africa, when you put a question on Google search, you get the same answer. It doesn't matter who you are or if you have to pay for it. I think that's a great equalizer, and we like to keep at that and making sure that everybody has equal access. But we are also supporting government in building that equality. So, for example, we are able to take a long-term view and invest in infrastructure, because the biggest challenge right now is infrastructure. We gave a grant a while back here in Kenya to the government of $5 million to support access to underserved areas. And more recently, we announced our investment in Umoja, a fiber optic cable that is running, anchored in Kenya, going to South Africa through a number of other African countries, and onward subsea to Australia. It's a major, major investment. But that helps to improve the resilience and connectivity for Kenya and many countries in Africa, because many of the links that terminate at one place in Mombasa are vulnerable, and we've had many disruptions. And then finally, in terms of upskilling and AI education, we've actually launched, we announced last week that we are working with the government to support AI digital upskilling in schools, working with partners that government normally works with, to make sure that this program goes not just to the schools that can afford, but with the collaboration of the Office of the President to actually have it embedded in public schools. And we are meeting the financial cost of piloting that program, having previously actually piloted a similar program for coding in tertiary and vocational educational institutions. So there's a lot we are doing, both in terms of policy and then also supporting and complementing government programs on infrastructure and digital upskilling. Thank you so much.
Can AI maintain a consistent brand voice across different campaigns and platforms, especially in marketing, majorly on high complex brand voices that require a deep understanding, a cultural nuisance, or a subtle emotional tone?
It's a good question.
Sorry, I didn't get, is it, would you mind
Can you repeat
repeating
some of
that
the question?
much
Can
louder?
AI maintain a consistent brand voice across different campaigns and platforms? This is in the marketing sector, especially high complex brand voices that require a deep understanding, a cultural nuisance, or a subtle emotional tone.
I think my answer was that it will seem to, because AI is very good at mimicking human ways of speaking and interacting. But the answer I was giving in the previous question was some of the things we don't want to outsource to AI, apart from tasks that require a high level of originality and creativity, is any tasks that require factoring human feelings and human emotions. I think it is very important that we understand that AI can appear to be empathetic, but it is not empathetic. It is mimicking a human being who was empathetic and the language of empathy. So I always say, like, if I needed to fire someone, if I'm not an employer, I think I'll be terrible. I would not fire them using a standard auto-generated email that I haven't read at least or improved. And if it, discharging someone from employment is a moment of, human vulnerability. So connecting with that person at that time, regardless of the reason they're leaving, I'm just giving that example, is important, I think, to understand that the AI can appear to take the place of a human being that has empathy, but it can't. I think the other thing is any activity that I made some notes when I was asked that question, leadership and team building. I think some of the things that we probably want, at least me, I didn't learn in school, turned out to be the most important. And they're the things that AI cannot do. Teamwork, emotional intelligence, how to deal with disappointment at the office, and in life generally. The value of co-creative, working with colleagues and, building things, and interacting as, at a human, interacting with people at a human level. Empathy, and I've mentioned emotional intelligence. So I think to answer the question, I would say that AI would look to be doing that, but there's a sense in which when the human being at the end, when the customer at the end discovers that they were actually interacting with an AI and not you, if that was misrepresented, I think they may have a lower opinion about that interaction that they would normally have.
Thank you, Michael. So I think we're at time. Everybody probably wants to get to lunch. And given the topic, I think we could answer questions for the next hour. So I want to thank both of you for the great insights. Thanks to the audience for the questions. Those were very dynamic. And as AI and its use cases evolve, it's very important that the input from the private sector is a focus. So we, as NextTrade, in a lot of our research work, we do a lot on the policy side, and having private sector input is absolutely critical on how policy is shaped, which ultimately dictates the trajectory of AI use cases. So again, thank you to you both, and enjoy the rest of the day activities. And I think we have even a startup competition later. So thank you to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, and your panelists. Just before you step down, the photographers have requested just take a photograph, but stand, and then you'll move forward.
Put them on.
All right, let's appreciate Michael and his panelists. We have one more panel discussion before we break for lunch. And this session will be looking at interactive shopping, how conversational commerce is changing retail. So I'd like to welcome our panelists for this session, which I will be moderating. Koi Mbugwa from Uber Eats and Mark Chiari from Chapter. Let's give them a warm round of applause as they come on stage. All right, and as we settle, I'm sure you have received your meal vouchers. Lunch will be served right after we're done with this session. If you have the orange voucher, you will be having your lunch at the Big Five restaurant. And if your voucher is purple, lunch will be served at the rooftop. I'll say that once again. If you have the orange voucher, lunch will be served at the Big Five restaurant. And if you have a purple voucher, lunch will be served at the rooftop. We've got a service team outside and they will be able to guide you to exactly where those two restaurants will be. All right, so we'll get into our panel. I guess a quick introduction for both of you just before we kick off.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Kiari. I'm the co-founder at Chapter. And Chapter assists businesses to be able to turn on social media as a revenue generating channel, so they can ideally be able to convert their customers on platforms such as WhatsApp and Instagram.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks. First of all, I'm so sorry for standing between you and lunch. So forgive us. We'll try and be as succinct as possible. My name is Koi Mbogwa. I am the general manager for Uber Eats in Kenya. Yeah, really happy to be here. Uber Eats facilitates or is an aggregator that facilitates the delivery of goods between merchants and consumers using courier partners.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll be getting into quite an interesting conversation on conversational commerce. It was coined nearly a decade ago by Chris Messina. It refers to any real-time interaction between brands and consumers on messaging apps, whether that will be chatbots, artificial intelligence, as we've heard from the previous panel, or human agents designed to facilitate both buying and selling. All right, so we've got some data that we should be looking at. So from time to time, we'll have some data that's showing up on the screen, which will show some of the different facets that we're looking at in regards to conversational commerce. Koi, I'd like to start with you on your insights on how large companies like Uber Eats can leverage or is already leveraging on conversational commerce.
Okay, thanks for the question. So I think when we think about conversational commerce, it's how we're reaching the consumer. And in our case, as a marketplace, we have three sort of parties or partners we sort of cater to. So first is the traditional consumer. The second would be the merchant. And I heard earlier them referring to merchants, which I thought was very much an internal word, but it's clear that that's where we're going, because a merchant represents a universe of retailers, not necessarily just restaurants, but also people selling pharmaceuticals, people selling groceries, dry cardboard items, fashion items, etc. And then there's the courier partners. So as Uber Eats, when we're thinking about who we need to speak to, we largely think about the consumer, of course. And in terms of consumer experience, I don't know if you've used the app recently, but we think about what kind of things can we do to make your day easier. Uber Eats was created because people really value time, and their time and convenience. Their time in terms of what can my time be better put towards, not necessarily preparing the food myself or going shopping myself. I can use an app to meet that so that my time can be used on friends, family, etc. So for example, I just recently became a new mom. And one of the things I've really enjoyed with the Uber Eats app is the way I've been able to get my groceries online, as well as my, I don't know, baby things. And part of that conversation is whenever I order something, the app tells me, hey, I've seen you've ordered this before. Is this something you'd like to order again? Based on the pattern that I've created for the app. I order something every Monday, it remembers, and it's able to tell me this might be something you need to think about. And if we are humans and we have a deluge of data coming our way, how do we better plan our weeks? How do we better plan ourselves? Data, AI, etc. Instead of being the intimidating replacer, I think somebody said in terms of replacing their job, think about it as a creative assistant. So I think it was Ben Affleck, I saw yesterday, calling AI a craftsman versus an originator or a creator. So think about how can, for example, Uber Eats and those app recommendations, pairing A with B, ordering this time and time again, plus a schedule, make my life easier, create capacity so that I can do the things that matter, so that I can do the things where human thought is actually required versus, you know, an automated task. And then of course, for our merchants, how do we, what word am I looking for? Democratize data access for them. So you're a small player, you're an SMB, you don't necessarily have the capital to hire tons of people to analyze your data. How does being on Uber Eats help you reach your customer a little bit better? We take the data that's being generated, you're able to generate your own insights on the back end, and you're able to then craft your menu, craft your experience so that you meet the consumer where they're at. So those are some of the ways that we cater to consumers using data and AI.
All right, thank you so much, Koi. If the technical team can just take us back to the last slide, which shows us the most popular conversational app by country. And as you can see there, across Africa, there's a lot of green. So that's a lot of use of, well, WhatsApp is the most popular conversational app. And Facebook Messenger up north, but the majority of the world I can see there has a lot of WhatsApp. And then we do have a bit of Telegram, Viber, and no data, especially around about Central Africa, thereabout. So if we can get to look at some of the, well, our local region specifically, and as we can see from that chart, WhatsApp is the most commonly used messaging app in East African countries. That's Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania as well. Mark, perhaps you can just share with us your thoughts on the steps a company should take to incorporate WhatsApp into its sales strategy and how to integrate conversational commerce into the process.
Yep. No, thank you for that question. So just before I answer that, I can speak a little on conversational commerce. So if you think about commerce is actually people trading, like I'll give you, for example, a pair of shoes and you'll give me some money. So marketplaces is where this trade used to happen. So people will go to a market and they'll be able to buy things from there. And the action of buying something from someone requires a conversation. So conversational commerce is actually not a new thing. It's actually the very way people actually buy things from each other. It's always from a conversation. And an interesting stat is now that commerce is moving online, we've actually seen that businesses can be able to increase the basket value at checkout by up to 40% if there's some sort of conversation. So many of us shop in the various shopping malls in Nairobi, Westgate. You can go to like a Woolworths or a Mr. Price. So many times this has happened to me. If the attendant actually talks to me and tells me this pair of shoes goes well with this pair of pants, I might actually consider buying that pair of pants. So you can see the conversation can actually facilitate more commerce between the consumer and the business. So if you think about, okay, how can businesses in the digital age take advantage of conversational commerce? WhatsApp becomes very, very important because naturally people just go there to socialize with the people they love. And after that, the businesses which they can be able to connect to. So brands are increasingly finding out that as people will spend less time on my website and more time on my Instagram. And if they want to reach out to me directly, they'll go to my WhatsApp, right? So it's a very, very important funnel for like businesses to now have that conversational element with their consumers. If you look at the West, they had email, like they had email, from the 1990s when the internet was invented, but Africa and many emerging markets had to sort of like leapfrog from, like fax, then email came, and by the time email was coming in 2010, WhatsApp was already here. So it's like WhatsApp is the first place where many consumers are interacting with chat interfaces. So this is why WhatsApp is very popular in places like Africa, there's Far East Asia, and also South America. It's a place where people feel like they can easily like connect with people they love, their family, and by extension, because you find now you're spending 4 hours a day on WhatsApp. You're in like a myriad of WhatsApp groups from your family. There's like a fundraiser somewhere. So it's also very easy for a business to reach you there. And you can be able to chat with them and see how that can be converted to either solving a customer support problem or having someone check out.
All right, I'd like to stay with you a little bit more, and I'm just curious about cultural factors. Are there any cultural factors that determine, how people want to engage in a conversational way?
I think so. This could be, there's some research on this, but what we've seen is in Africa, I'd say also in South America, it's very high context. So as opposed, if I want to talk to Koi, I won't just say, I want a meeting. I'll start with, hey, how are you doing? How things at home? How's your new baby? Things like that. So you find Africa and many emerging markets are more high context, and they'll require a chat before they can be able to actually say what they want. In the West, it's more direct, so very low context. So I think that's why WhatsApp hasn't done very well in the US, but it's doing well in Africa. So I think that's why it's a medium of choice for people to reach out to the business. And that's why many chats here like require conversation to be able to close. So if you're buying stuff in the market, you're buying fruits, you will talk to that lady for a little bit and then ask for your oranges. But like if it was in the US, you would just go and pick the fruit yourself. So I think WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger in this region provide a very good avenue for businesses to be able to have that conversational feel with their customers.
All right, thank you. I think that's a really interesting insight. We like to talk, huh? All right, let's look at another angle when it comes to conversational commerce. And when we look at some of the past numbers, global retail spending through these channels was 11.4 billion in 2023. Looking ahead to 2028, the spending is forecast to rise dramatically, reaching $43 billion, and that's a growth of a staggering 280%, largely driven by new personalized services powered by AI and large language models. Koi, with this in mind, I'd like to ask how you believe AI can be used to create these personalized experiences. And I'm glad this question comes immediately after the AI panel who lended a lot to this question as well. And what impact do you think this will have on consumer engagement and retention?
Yeah, so I think it was Michael who earlier mentioned that when you discover you've been chatting to AI, it feels like a betrayal in a sense. Maybe especially when it comes to personalized services, things like healthcare, etc. What I will say on retail, while we do love a conversation, especially on this continent, more and more I'm finding that there's also a generational differences in terms of how much communication is required. So for the younger generation, they just want to go straight to exactly what they want to buy, maybe not a lot of chatter. For the older generation, they appreciate that interpersonal communication. So when you think about what we can do as retailers to enhance that conversation, AI, for example, it learns from human interaction. So the more data you share with it, the more it learns how to speak to you. If it knows your age, where you live, your past or previous interactions, it's able to cater that experience better. And as small businesses, you may not have the capacity, for example, to have a single customer support agent for every single issue that arises. If you're expanding to Mombasa, Kisumu, out of the country, etc., you may not have the capacity or capability to get somebody to do customer support. How do you leverage these AI tools to provide that customer support and speak in the voices of your consumers, those that love long interactions, those that love short interactions, in a way that's meaningful to them? Right. So for me, that's really important. In terms of the numbers, last year alone, I think as Uber Eats, we generated over $500 million in terms of value for our restaurant and retail partners, which was quite a staggering growth, but we barely scratched the surface in terms of potential for retail, right? When we know what we know about the African continent is we're well within the double digits, I think somewhere around 28% in terms of year-on-year growth for retail itself. Kenya is like at 35%. So the potential is there, right? And for you to harness that. And traditionally, we've gone for the same segments, 18 to 35, but we're finding more and more different generations are getting online. They just need a differentiated experience. And AI can help you do that at scale where you may not have the tools or the people to help you do that for your business. I hope that makes sense.
All right. Yes, it does. Thank you, Koi. Mark, I'll come to you. According to data from Future Markets Insight, voice assistants currently holds 26.1% of market share in the global conversational commerce industry. And I'm assuming here that the older people that Koi just alluded to, I must be one of them, might not be primarily in that segment. But do you think we'll see similar adoption levels in the Kenyan market soon? And if so, how do you believe local businesses can best prepare to integrate, voice assistants into their strategies effectively?
Yeah, I think interesting question. Yeah, voice actually from the number, so we have, Chapter has about 1,000 businesses in Kenya now. And I think those are topic on omni-channel, like how does the customer interact with this business? So one, they could interact with the physical store, they could interact with it on Instagram, they could interact with it on WhatsApp, and then they could also interact with it in voice. So voice, we haven't seen it to be so high here in Kenya yet. I'd say maybe between 10 and 15%. But then it's still significant enough for businesses to be able to care about it. So what I think businesses can do, and this is something also powering on Chapter, is a consumer can be able to call the business and like dial in their order. And this has happened many times where you can dial in to make your order, and then someone WhatsApps you or sends you an email and asks you what's your exact order. And as a customer, you get angry. Or you're calling for a customer support problem to say, maybe I haven't gotten my shoes. And then they ask you, what shoes did you order? So, the customer gets a bit mad. So I think there's opportunity to deliver more customer support by being able to have a channel where you can plug in voice assistants. And these voice assistants can speak to your e-commerce platform, if it's Shopify, if it's WooCommerce, to see if it's an order request, if that voice request can be turned into an order, or if it's a customer support request, when someone says, my order is XYZ at this time, you can be able to easily fetch it and be able to support that customer. So I think there's opportunity to deliver a lot of customer support there, because when it comes to like making sure your brand is very well received with your customers, you need to make sure, even if it's voice, you're able to still give them a very good customer experience.
Thank you, Mark. Koi, I'll come to you on another major issue around privacy, which is becoming increasingly prominent. How can companies ensure the security of customer data when using messaging apps for transactions and interactions? We've seen, for instance, the example given earlier by Sandeep about, his wife coming to ask him, how do they know that I wanted, the stable mats as well. Now, as conversational commerce grows, particularly through platforms that handle some of the sensitive information and data, what best practices can companies use or follow to protect user data and maintain customer trust, in all these interactions?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think often when people hear data privacy or the privacy laws that we're all subject to, they imagine it's only big companies that have to adhere to them. And yes, we do. I promise you we do. Otherwise, everyone would know where you live. But more importantly is, what are the principles you can stick to, even as a small business or as an individual who's collecting data over and above a big business like Uber, that are consistent. So some of the things we do, for example, are we always are transparent when we're collecting data, what we're collecting it for, right? Number two is we only take what is necessary. And I think this one in particular, I think on the continent, people tend to copy paste data approaches. I've seen these guys collect this amount of data. I'm going to do the same for my business. But one of the most important data privacy principles is collect only what is necessary, right? So only ask the information. Do you need to know that person's name in your business? I don't know. If you do, yes, fantastic. Do you need to know their age? Maybe not. For example, as Uber and Uber Eats, we don't necessarily collect age because it's not relevant for the service we're providing, right? And people will often come and say, but how do you know which users are using which products? And we can do that with a data survey where we are intentionally asking you for that information. But it's not something we collect in our day-to-day because it's not relevant for us. So transparency, I'd say necessity. I'd also say discard data that you don't need anymore. So don't also hang on to people's data for years and years. And that's how data breaches happen. For like your Yahoo email address from like when you were 10, somebody all of a sudden has access because you've never changed your password for like 10 years. So collect what is necessary, discard what you don't need. Other principles are make sure at each point of the customer journey that you're building, that you're consistently reviewing the data that you're collecting and why you're collecting it. So privacy reviews, those are very important. I think those are some of the principles that can apply across the board.
Okay. Thank you, Koi. I want us to focus on customer experience now. And Mark, you did sort of allude to some of the thoughts into the next question, which is how does conversational commerce enhance customer experience? And if you can do that in comparison to traditional commerce, e-commerce channels. And are there specific customer needs that conversational commerce meets better?
Yeah, I think yeah, very keen to provide some insight here. So one thing we noticed, which was sort of like the whole insight onto why we found a chapter, was if you look today at some of the platforms where people spend the most amount of time, consumers, it's mainly social media. So someone is more likely to spend more time on Instagram than they would like Amazon. Amazon is like something like 1 minute, 20 seconds. But Instagram, someone can spend like 4 hours there, right? So Instagram, TikTok, these are the places where consumers are spending the most amount of time. And then if you're a business, you really want to appear in places where consumers are spending the most time. So if Nike is going to release a new shoe, they'll see more success if they release it on Instagram, if they release it on Twitter or on TikTok, than if they post it on their website, right? They'll see more traction that way. So because social media is becoming really big, then it means like the version of the internet that's seeing the most success is actual social media sites, right? So brands now started having social media profiles. So what happens after that is Nike now has released a new shoe. They post it on Instagram. Then they get like, like 50 DMs maybe in the first 5 minutes. They'll need so many customer support agents to be able to handle that inbound and all that demand. And this is Nike, which is worth maybe like $100 billion. What about now a business? This is my friend there, Kicks Kenya, the largest sneaker store in Kenya. Maybe they don't have the resources that Nike has, but every time they post with 100,000 followers on Instagram, they get like 100 DMs, right? 100 DMs, and some of it also filters into WhatsApp. So this is a version of conversational commerce already, because someone is chatting to ask, is this product available? So the nature of social media is that it's also made people like impulse buyers, and the attention span is really, really low. So if I say I want these shoes from Kicks Kenya and they don't respond within 5 minutes, I'll probably go to another website and another Instagram page and ask if they have it. Maybe I'm buying it on Friday and I need to wear them on Saturday, right? So that's something that happens a lot. So if you lose that customer within those first 5 minutes, you've actually lost a sale. If you kind of count like maybe you get 50 DMs a day and the value of a purchase is maybe 5,000 shillings or $50, you can see you could be losing north of like $2,000 every single day. So how you can take advantage of conversational commerce is building channels that speak to now social media as a sales channel. So instead of just selling on your website, now you'll be selling on Instagram, you'll be selling on WhatsApp, and you'll be selling on TikTok. So conversational commerce plays a big role here. And this is also combined with AI. So when you combine like, for example, a GPT, Gemini or ChatGPT with your Instagram or your WhatsApp, you can make sure that when a customer sends a DM, or you get a message on WhatsApp, it can actually respond automatically. So you go from like a 7-minute delay time for customer response to like 30 seconds. So Chapter assists some businesses to do this, and we've seen up to 85% in productivity, because getting that customer to stay on that platform is really, really hard. So when you respond immediately, even the customer will feel, hey, this business is really, really responsive. And we get to train like that WhatsApp, we get to train that AI for that particular business. We get to train that AI on like the products that they sell on their website and some of the FAQs. So common questions like, when are you open? Where is your store? How do I return? All these things can just be answered by the AI. And if there's need for escalation, now a customer support agent can be able to take it over. So these are some of the ways businesses can be able to take advantage of this. And it's really, really easy. Just being able to respond within to your customers within, like 30 seconds, it really makes a difference. And it can be the difference between losing or making a sale.
All right. Thank you, Makoi. I'll just come quickly to you. Are there any specific or particular types of products or industries that you believe stand a better chance at conversational commerce compared to others?
Yeah, and I think the previous panel also spoke about it. So definitely retail of any kind, conversational commerce, I think to the point that was made is definitely going to enhance that. I think something else we've seen is pharmacy, which has been a super fast growing opportunity for us as Uber Eats, where people don't necessarily want to interact with a human being when they're explaining what's wrong with them or what medicine they need, especially if it's surface level healthcare that doesn't necessarily require deep diagnostic, or convenience items that you'd get from a pharmacy related to sexual health or supplements, etc. You don't necessarily want to have that conversation in person or in a store. So I think those are industries that can stand to benefit. I sit on the board of a startup called Bion8, that's using conversational commerce in a sense to do a little bit of diagnostics and bring doctors to people who can't otherwise access them. So very affordable healthcare. And they use conversational commerce as well. So I think honestly, every industry can stand to use conversational commerce to some degree if you want to end up with a productive sales on the end, or if you want to scale. I think commerce and using digital and AI tools, the one thing that it helps is democratize access to multiple people. So it's definitely a tool of scale. So you don't necessarily just want to serve people in your neighborhood, people in Nairobi, etc. It's definitely something you can leverage. Yeah.
All right, thank you both so much. A final question to both of you. Advice or any word you may have for startups or entrepreneurs or companies that have not yet fully engaged conversational commerce. What word do you have for them? How can they start? Why should they start?
Yeah, I think good question. I'd say it's good to prepare for sort of like where the world is going. I think this has been mentioned a lot. I actually watched the Ben Affleck video on AI. I think AI is a very key topic. I believe the internet sort of unlocked availability, like global availability. So anything was discovered anywhere. And the AI is sort of like unlocking infinite intellect. So you can tap into sort of like intellect on demand. So I think there's opportunity for many businesses, and especially e-commerce businesses, to tap into AI and also tap into conversational commerce, because conversations is really how we interact as humans. So in anything that's going to come, a conversation is always going to be there. And sort of like the phase one of AI that has been released is super, super conversational. I think ChatGPT was launched, 2018, but it really broke out when it launched the chat component, right? So just shows you just how important chat is in any form of commerce. So I think what businesses can do is really prepare. Don't feel like AI or conversational commerce is for like those guys over there who are on the cutting edge of tech. You can also just implement it on your business if it's a chatbot on your website, if it's just making automated responses on your WhatsApp, on your Instagram. you're really starting to take advantage of the tools which are here today to help your business do more. And we'd all love to be able to have businesses which are sort of like running on autopilot. So you're here in a conference, but there's a certain AI chatbot that's just responding to customers and helping you see more sales. So that's a future that's very, very possible for everyone here.
Thank you, McCoy.
Okay, I would just say that data is your friend, and data is the next resource. It's the next water. It's the next mineral. For you to meet your needs, leverage data and use the tools to analyze that. I think that helps you with more things than you can imagine. So definitely customer experience and customer support, but also merchandising, right? What products do you need to stock more of? What do you need to stock less of? And it can make your overall customer journey and even merchant journey just a lot more efficient. So yeah, I think that's my only advice is leverage the data that you have access to, and can really be the difference between you and the next retailer or in the next business that maybe you're in competition with.
All right, thank you so much. Let's appreciate Mark and Koi for their wonderful insights around conversational commerce and what we can all do within our spaces to create better experiences for our customers. All right, our photographer would like us to take a photograph, and as we do that, thank you so much. Let's go on close to Koi. So we will now break for lunch. Just a few housekeeping. If you have an orange voucher, your lunch will be served at the Big Five restaurant. And if you've got a purple voucher, lunch will be served at the rooftop. Orange at the Big Five and purple on the rooftop. We've got our service team. If you can ask them, they'll also be able to show you that. So it's 1 o'clock now. We come back at 2 o'clock, preferably a few minutes before 2 so we can kick off on time. We've got a surprise for those who make it back exactly at 2 o'clock.
Exactly. And if you came in time, you know this device? You want to know? Well, you have to be here at 2 o'clock, okay? It's good content? You like it? Well, share in all the networks and see you at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.